Good afternoon, a very warm welcome to the Men's Elite Individual Time Trial here in Stirling. This is the final time trial of these World Championships. As we look down on the historic Stirling Castle, the finish line just behind it, as you can see, that's where all the white tents and trucks are. This race is going to be an exciting one. This is the current medal table. Great Britain have extended their lead at the top of the table with now 19 golds. Here's the rest of the nations who have scored medals in these Super World Championships. Today then the riders will be taken to the line at 1 minute 20-second intervals. Our first rider will roll down the ramp at 2:21 this afternoon and 20 seconds. The riders' bikes are being checked. Let's take a little bit of a look at how this event works. The time trial is known as the Race of Truth. The flags are fluttering in the background, a little bit gusty. 18km/h winds now, partly cloudy. The temperature is 20 degrees. Now behind the podium is where the commissaires panel check all the bikes. President of the commissaires, Joey Emmons. This is this special jig that is laser measuring these bikes to make sure that they comply with the rules. Let's take a look at this individual time trial and how it's configured. You go out at the start, the same start that we've seen all the way through the time trials. 47.8 kilometers is the distance. The riders go through the first split, then up to Thornhill. An extra loop around Kippen and then down towards Gargunnock for the second split, and then the track down to Cambusbarron, up into the finish to the castle at the top of the hill. Stirling Castle up there on the hillside, and down at the bottom we have the start ramp where the riders will roll out. Our first rider to start will be Ahmad Wais, who's riding for the refugee team. And a crowd assembling then for the race start. Looking forward to cheering all these favourites, and it is going to be a very big afternoon. Some of the biggest names in world cycling are here in Stirling for this race start this afternoon. It's going to be a hard-fought time trial over 47.8 kilometres to decide where this final rainbow jersey of these time trials is going to go. There's the best flag of these World Championships. Braveheart. Is it going to be Wout van Aert's afternoon? Let's wait and see what happens. This is the holding area for the riders. They go through their protocol of their warm-up, and then they come in here for the final little bit of preparation. It's kind of an alternate place where riders come in and they put their bike on the rollers and then they move themselves out. The next person comes in. Here's the previous winners, the last few winners. Tobias Foss of Norway was last year's winner in Wollongong. Before that was twice Filippo Ganna of Italy. The 2 years before that, Rowan Dennis of Australia, Tom Dumoulin and Tony Martin. So many of the biggest names in world cycling have won this title. So our first rider will be Ahmad Wais. And we'll let you just take a little look through the individual time trial start list. The final rider to go this afternoon will be rolling down the ramp at 4:04 in the afternoon. Tobias Foss, a defending champion. Before him will be Stefan Kung, And Remco Evenepoel will be third from last. Welcome along to this time trial. I'm Anthony McCrossan. Alongside me is Olympian Lucy Martin. We're looking forward to guiding you through this time trial this afternoon. Lucy, there are the biggest names in world time trialling here in Stirling this afternoon. What are you looking forward to?
Hi, Anne. And yeah, there certainly is. Everybody you would expect is on the start line. There's not really anybody missing. In previous editions, we've seen the odd rider because of injury, illness, various reasons, not taken to the World Championship start, but certainly this year in 2023 we have everybody. Just look on the screen at those names. It's going to be a fierce battle for that gold medal today.
It is, isn't it, though? You're absolutely right. When you look at the last few riders to go, it's just a who's who. It's going to be pretty special. Remy Cavagna, Mikael Bjerg, Tadej Pogacar, Jay Vine, Filippo Ganna, Geraint Thomas, Remco Evenepoel, Stefan Kung, Tobias Foss, and then you add in all the other riders that go before that. Wout van Aert is also here, Casper Asgreen, Lawson Craddock, Rowan Dennis. It's really hard to work out who might win this time trial.
It really is, and of course you can go from previous results and you can say who's got the best chance, but as we've seen so far in the different categories, there's been quite a few surprises, and it all comes down to this kind of final short but difficult cobble section, the climb up to the Stirling Castle, where we've seen people win and lose the race. We've seen riders almost come into a standstill trying to just get the pedal over, get across that line. So, as always in a time trial, pacing is going to be crucial, but maybe even more so on this course today.
It looks like also we're going to be pretty lucky with the weather.
Yeah, we've not seen any rain yet. The clouds are rolling in, so it could very well change. We are, of course, in Scotland, and the rain can come in any moment. The wind has been around. It's picked up a little bit this afternoon. It's not really bad at the moment. So it's a fairly neutral course, nothing too challenging, but as I said, we are in Scotland and it can change from second to second.
It can. You can go and look out the window and think, lovely and sunny, and 5 minutes later, it's absolutely throwing down with rain and it's sunny again. Quite like when I went for a run this morning. It looked beautiful, got outside, poured with rain, came back, sun came out. It's always the same. Stirling is the host of these World Championship time trials, a city that has been proudly hosting all these races, and we've seen some fantastic tussles so far. Our first rider is getting ready, Ahmed Wais. He's a refugee, part of this 6-rider refugee cycling team that the UCI, the Union Cycliste Internationale, the governing body, has helped to support these riders and their dreams of riding the World Championships. There's the famous beanie hats that you can get at the World Championships. Maybe a little bit warm for that today, but certainly they are useful when it comes to the World Cyclocross Championships. Ahmed Wais about to get started. Just about to roll down the start ramp. Putting the visor on.
This is his 4th time at the World Championships. He was actually 38th at the Olympic Games, the 32-year-old, so he is experienced. Maybe a little bit more nerve-wracking being the first rider to roll down the ramp. You don't have a benchmark time, you don't know exactly how it's going to go. Some riders prefer it to go off earlier, some like to be one of the latest riders so they can really know how it goes, where the pinch points are on the course.
Good that he's had that experience in championships before. The UCI has looked after 5 road athletes, 3 women and 2 men, one of them being Ahmed Wais. They're all living in European host countries but come from Afghanistan, Syria and Iran. Underway, these World Time Trial Championships for men. Ahmed Wais also rode for the IOC Olympic refugee team in the Tokyo 2020 Games. Goes out of the start area, past the fan zone on the right-hand side. And he'll get himself into that aero tuck and get going into his position. This afternoon, the wind is going to have a factor, isn't it, at the beginning of this race?
Yeah, it certainly is. And as we said, it's really picked up this afternoon. We could almost see none of the trees blowing in the morning, but now it really is quite windy. And it's an open course. As you can see, the start is on wide open roads. There's not that much protection at the start. Later on, it goes into the housing area. There's some trees for protection, but here it really is. And we'll see at the start the flags and which direction they are blowing, if the direction of the wind has changed or not.
Next rider to start is from Malta, Aidan Buttigieg. He's about to go. Gets the final countdown before he gets underway. And the Maltese rider trying to stay as low and as aero as possible till he gets that big gear rolling and gets up to speed. Settles himself into his rhythm.
He certainly does, and he's had experience competing at games before. He was at the Commonwealth Games last year and he finished 36th in the time trial, so he's no stranger to various races. He's done a lot of racing in Europe, particularly in Belgium. So these riders will be able to set the early benchmark, but of course we've got a long day ahead of us. There's still many, many riders to come.
Big field of riders this afternoon for this individual time trial. The riders going at 1 minute 20-second intervals. This event was first run in 1994. The first ever winner was Chris Boardman from Great Britain. Really in the middle of his key part of his career, when they suggested that there was going to be a World Time Trial Championships, Boardman turned his attention firmly to trying to win that, and he did. This is Edward Ongarang, comes from Guam.
He lined up last year at the World Championships when it was, of course, in Australia, in the time trial event where he finished in 47th position. So he's had that experience last year. Of course, it's a different course, totally different style, but he's back for more and hoping, I'm sure, to try and beat that position that he achieved last year in Australia. There's a lot of people here at the start. We've seen, of course, in the junior men's race this morning, there was a lot of people out on the road, but a bit further around the course, whereas it's the men elite time trial championships, and for this reason we're seeing many, many people coming to the start area. They want to see the favourite riders warming up. They want to see them roll down the ramp while they're waiting, of course, with those horrible beeps. I don't think anybody likes the beeps from the start ramp. That's when you're extremely nervous, the last 5 seconds before you set off, but it's a great place to actually watch the riders and see them really close up and personal before they go and do their 2023 individual World Time Trial Championships.
Next rider to go comes from Cape Verde. This is Renato Suarez. Cape Verde, one of the amazing little archipelagos in the central Atlantic Ocean. Get started. Got the aero socks on, and he's on a road bike, not taking part in a time trial bike this afternoon. Settling himself into his rhythm. It's going to be quite a hard ride on a road bike this afternoon in this time trial, but everybody's got to choose their equipment and go with what they have. Some of these riders, this rider from Cape Verde up against some of the top riders in the world, being paid millions to ride for their particular trade teams, and Cape Verde, just a small nation looking after the interests of Renato Suarez.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a hard task, mainly because of the distance. It's 47.8 kilometers, so to be doing that on a road bike, the really big difference comes obviously towards the end, but the aerodynamics play such an important part of this event, and every kilometre that ticks by you can lose or gain seconds. So yeah, it's obviously a lot harder if you are on a road bike. Maybe more comfortable, but not as aerodynamic.
Next rider to go will be Ahmad Mirzai. rides for Afghanistan. And a good start. Safely out there. Yeah, big crowd has built around Stirling for this afternoon. We saw the junior time trial this morning, but everybody knows that the big stars of world cycling are here. And if you're in this starting area, you're going to see Remco Evenepoel, Rowan Dennis, all the big stars, Geraint Thomas, who's coming towards the end of his career, of course. This is Ryan Mullen, 28 years of age now, European silver medalist, bronze medalist. This rider, Ryan Mullen, has always ridden well in the World Championship, but not quite achieved what we thought in the early part of his career he would in World Championship time trials.
Yeah, he certainly had some very good results at a younger age. He was second in the under 23 time trial event. That was way back in 2014. So obviously the riders that perform at under 23 level show that they have great potential for the future, and he's still gone on to have fantastic results. But yeah, maybe just off the podium, always around 4th, 5th position. I'm sure he'll be hungry for a good ride today, especially with it being here up in Scotland, not too far from where he's from.
This is a Ghanaian rider, Christopher Simmons.
Well, that was a bit of a, could have been a disastrous one as he went off to the right-hand side. And we were talking about this yesterday in the junior women's event, weren't we? How for some riders, they aren't that experienced in time trials particularly. Maybe they've done a lot of road racing, but time trials is quite specific. And they may have done the typical time trial on the side of the road where somebody just holds you up, or where you even just clip in after the beeps. But to actually do a time trial down a ramp, there's many riders here that will not have actually had that experience before, especially if they've not been at a World Championships event. So we have to remember that there's such a big variety of abilities at this World Championships. But of course, it's great for everybody to get that opportunity and perform on the world stage.
Flying over Bannockburn. The visitor experience there. Battle of Bannockburn, so famous in this region, as we go back to the Uzbekistan rider, Murajan Kulmaratov.
Now, I noted him down. He's actually one of the older riders in this event, 41 years of age. He's 11-time national champion in the time trial, so very experienced racing in his home country. He was the Asian time trial champion back in 2013, so he's been around for many, many years, but yeah, certainly one of the older riders that we're going to see rolling down the ramp today.
He gets going into that aero tuck. The youngest rider taking part is Josh Tarling. Kulmaratov, not the oldest rider in the race though. We've got 4 riders who are older than him who will be taken to the start line this afternoon.
Yeah, it's a real range of ages, isn't it? We also saw that yesterday in the elite women's race with, of course, Amber Naben, 48 years of age against 20-year-olds. So it is really fantastic what you can see at these World Championships. The variety, the diversity, everybody's here. It is the World Championships.
And in order to ride these World Championships, you have to be the best in your nation. We've generally seen the top 2 time trialists in their nation. So if you happen to be in your nation and you're 40-odd years of age, you're going to get picked. This is Su Hua Yu, underway for the People's Republic of China, and immediately into that aero tuck.
Yeah, 22 years of age, so a lot younger than the rider to go off ahead of him.
4th youngest rider in this field this afternoon. The youngest rider being Josh Tarling, which is no surprise. Josh Tarling decided, which is an interesting decision because he comes later on. He was the winner of the junior time trial last year. He went straight into the senior elite ranks riding for his trade team. And now he's decided, rather than ride in the under-23 time trial, he's decided to go straight into the elites.
Yeah, not many riders do that. They often prefer to spend more time developing, have that chance to win the under-23 title, But we saw he's a talent, and I think as we were mentioning earlier today in the junior race, the age is getting younger and younger. The likes of Remco, Evenepoel, who went into elites straight out of the junior ranks and began winning. And we're seeing it time and time again that younger riders are performing. So maybe he's decided he wants that extra experience, those extra years in his legs to really just take on the elite category.
Alexandre Meyer riding for Mauritius. Settles himself into that aero tuck. It's been a big build-up for some of these riders, getting themselves set for this individual time trial. When you're a big nation, you don't have any problems, everything's done for you. But these smaller nations have had to think about getting their bikes. Some cases, like yesterday, we saw some riders with their time trial bikes on the train going back into Glasgow. In normal circumstances, you're part of the Great Britain team. You would never be on the train back to Glasgow with your time trial bike. You'll be taken there, taken back and forward, everything done for you. The smaller nations, that doesn't happen. We were with some of the Iceland riders yesterday, and they're just themselves with one helper. Yeah,
exactly. And I mean, it really does vary on the nation, doesn't it? And of course that's the most interesting part of the World Championships, the way that everybody comes together, everyone's in different equipment. It's very diverse, and that's what we also see in the results.
Ryan Mullen of Ireland, the biggest name we've seen so far. Mullen is about to get going, rides for the team of Bora Hansgrohe, one of the best lead-out men now in world cycling. His job is to kind of pilot the team whilst the riders start off, to bring the breakaway back in the biggest races, and then to put their sprinter and their final lead-out man, Danny Van Poppel, into position, and then try and pilot them into a finish. And he's normally combined with this rider, Niels Pollitt, also of the Bora Hansgrohe team.
Yeah, of course they are competing against each other here from different nations, but they are on the same World Tour team, so they essentially are teammates. And going back to Mullen, he's a 6-time national champion, so he's clearly the best from that country. In 2016, so a few years ago now, but he was actually 5th in this event, so he's been up there before. Look how smooth, calm and collected he looks. He really is a pro in the time trial event, and you can just see that by the way his upper body's so still. He almost looks like he's not trying. He's so perfect on a bike. But of course he will be putting out huge watts and really pacing himself, because it is a long event, 47.8 kilometers.
Felix Ritzinger riding for Austria. Get started now. Goes firing out at the start. Big start for Ritzinger of the Austrian squads.
He has raced the time trial at the World Championships before. His best placing was 46th, so not sure what he'll be expecting today, but that was back in 2020, so a few years ago. He's been 2 times second place in the national championships. So a lot of these riders as well may not be actually realistically aiming for a podium finish. They might know they're a bit off the limit to achieve that placing, because we are up against some stiff competition, but that's the beauty of the time trial event. You can also really just try to better your own performance and better your own time. It's an event where you have to focus on yourself and your power output and ride your race. People often get caught up in watching what other riders are doing and exactly what equipment they're using, but essentially it is just you against the clock. Then you cross the line and you can compare yourself to the rest. So it's a very, very specific event, and I think for me personally, the men's event is incredible just because of the distance, 47 kilometers.
The concentration required is immense, as we see Nicholas Zukowski rides for the Q36.5 professional team, the team that has been brought together by Doug Ryder, formerly the owner of the Dimension Data squad that had the likes of Mark Cavendish in it, but now the Q36.5 team growing and have got big ambitions for the future. Some big sponsors associated with that squad as well. So Zukowski of Canada underway.
He's the current national champion in the road race. He finished 2nd in the time trial, so we'll see how he does today. Maybe it's not his forte, but he's certainly a strong rider. Imagine the nerves now for all these riders. They've done the warm-ups, they're just spinning the legs now here, getting ready to begin their effort, lining up next to each other, and it is a very nerve-wracking moment. You know you're about to suffer, and you're going to suffer for a long time. 47.8 kilometers to be precise.
Ryan Mullen looking strong this afternoon, looking like he's just cruising as we go back to the start for the South African rider Ryan Gibbons, a member of UAE Team Emirates, one of the first attackers in the men's elite road race at the weekend, about to get going.
Almost looks like he's smiling.
I think there is a little smile on his face. Ryan Gibbons is a rider who does really enjoy his racing. He's a very open and chatty rider, always ready for a conversation at a bike race before he gets underway on a stage or whatever.
Yeah, in 2019 he finished 19th in this event, so he's already crept inside the top 20 once before. Will we see him in the top 20 again today? But look at the fans. We're seeing a lot more fans coming out on the road, and I'm sure a bit later on when we see the real race favourites, there'll be even more people out cheering for them.
Ryan Gibbons of South Africa. Let's see what time he can produce this afternoon. Ryan Mullen out on the course. A big gear on that bike, hasn't he? Massive chainring. Yeah,
and he certainly is a powerful rider. That's his riding style, and I'm sure he was very happy when he saw the course for this year's time trial. It's pan flat at the start, really open, wide roads. It's got a little bit of everything, but it's certainly a course that should suit the Irishman.
From the Czech Republic, this is Jakoba Truba. Gets going, presses that head unit. Capturing the data for his coach for later, and just being able to look at his ride will help him out to understand what he can do to go better if that's required. If you win the world title, there's not much you can do to go faster, but all these riders love to analyse their data and look at what is possible to get even better than they are right now. Out on the course, this is Edward Ongarang riding for Guam.
Yeah, it's always interesting, isn't it, to see which riders prefer to look at the computer. Some riders simply turn it on when they start, but they don't actually want to look at any of the statistics. They cover it up, but afterwards, when they finish the race, they can analyse it with the coach, with the trainers. But it really varies depending on the rider and how they're feeling. Do they want to look at the speed, the power? I'm sure we'll see a lot of riders turning on computers at the start, but as I said, whether they actually look at them during the race or not is a different thing.
This is Niels Pollitt, a stage winner in the Tour de France. About to get started. You can see the contours on that skin suit. Looks like he's up for a big ride this afternoon. You can see the ribbing on that skin suit, can't you? As to just to create turbulence so that he cuts through the air quickly.
Yeah, exactly, and that will be a skin suit that costs a significant amount of money. It'll have been through a lot of testing to make sure it really is the right material, the right shape, to make sure it fits in properly, to be as aerodynamic as possible. He's had success before in the time trial. He is the current national champion, 29-year-old from Germany, so we'll expect him to have a strong ride. And yeah, you can just tell the way these riders, the ones that are on World Tour teams, how comfortable they look on the bike. They've done time trials many times all around the world, and they really are the best of the best, the elite.
These skin suits, these speed suits that these riders are wearing, how often do they use them?
Yeah, not that often really, because there's simply not that many time trials on the calendar if we really think about it. Of course, you have time trials in many stage races, and that's it. It's not necessarily the kind of skin suit you would put on for training. You'd only bring it out on the main race. But as you can see, Ryan Mullen absolutely powering around this course now. He's about to catch riders.
Oh, not good news there from that car. Shouldn't really have been there. Ryan Mullen goes round. This is the Chinese rider.
The car would normally, of course, be able to just pull over to the side, but it was just that one tricky section of road with the cones, of course, as the riders come back on the other side. So not ideal for Ryan, but he's a professional. I'm sure he can, as he did, handle it and not be too phased with that.
To be honest, for a moment, he wouldn't have been too worried, because having a car in front of you for a little while doesn't present too many issues as far as aerodynamics are concerned. But just when he got to that point where he was going faster than the car, then he wouldn't be too happy with that situation. But he's gone past nice and safely, no problem at all. We've gone through intermediate split 1, and the Maltese rider, Eden Buttigieg, is the rider who is at the top of the leaderboard, 17 minutes and 1. Also gone through there, Ahmad Wais, he's second, 10.69 seconds down. And Edward Ongarang of Guam has gone through with the third fastest time, 18 minutes 26.42. You
could really see the speed then, couldn't you, of Mullen, how quickly he flew past those other riders, and I think we're going to see a lot of that today. We saw it in the junior event, many riders getting caught early on. And I mean, it also comes down to the kind of material, as we were talking about, the bikes, the equipment, skin suits, aerodynamics, also pacing. Some of these riders will really want to go out fast, try to gain as much time as possible on these early, open, flat roads before it becomes a bit more technical, a bit hillier later on. But he certainly looks very smooth. Ryan Mullen, one of the early riders to go off, one of the most professional in the time trial event.
He looks so smooth the way he's pedaling. He's got the aero socks on. These riders choose then the aero suit. The bike is as aerodynamic as it could be. What other touches have they got on these bikes or clothing that will mean that they are as fast as possible? As we go back here to the start of Harold Deada, who rides for Colombia.
Yeah, I mean, it really does depend on the nation and also on the World Tour trade teams, how much they decide to invest in being aerodynamic. And of course, you can be on a World Tour team and you simply ride the time trial event, but it's not your forte, whereas somebody who really is focusing on the time trial event in stage races at the World Championships, they can invest thousands and thousands of euros in wind tunnel testing, in having that really high-tech equipment, skin suits, but it's everything, absolutely everything these riders are wearing, from the helmets, the visors, the socks. Of course, the bike is super important, absolutely everything. When they're out there, is it the most aerodynamic? Is it going to slide through the wind as much as possible? And I mean, it's like anything in any sport. Technology is just improving at a rapid rate, and their bikes, everything's just getting faster and faster. And we're seeing that with the times, with the speeds that these riders are producing in events like this. It's just constantly getting faster and faster. And yeah, I know a lot of teams do spend a lot of time in the wind tunnel. There's a great place down in London. Many of them fly over, particularly in the off-season before the next season gets underway, and they spend hours and hours just really defining the position and making sure it is the most aerodynamic. But what's quite interesting is they can come away from that. They can have a really aerodynamic position in a fixed environment on a ergo, and then they take it out onto the road and it doesn't work, because you still have to be comfortable. You still have to sit in that position for 47.8 kilometers like today at the World Championships. You have to climb, you have to go around corners. So riders often try to just stay as much as they can in that position, but they may have to change, make some small modifications to make sure they can actually survive that distance, that amount of time in that position, and handle the bike well. Because yeah, as we see, they're going so fast nowadays when they're flying around those corners, or today when they come up this final climb that's on cobbles. They have to be aerodynamic, but they have to be safe as well as strong and comfortable in the position. So it's a real balancing act to make sure they can kind of produce good power, but still be as aerodynamic and comfortable as possible. And we saw again in the junior race how many riders came across the line and instantly whipped off the skin suit. Not all of the skin suit, sorry. They just unzipped it, took off the helmet, just because it's such a restrictive position. It's not that comfortable actually once you're out of the skis and that aero position.
Another of the second of the riders from the refugee team, Amir Aslan, underway. Getting into that aero position very quickly with that aero hat on. And at the first intermediate time split, Murodjan Kulmuratov is the fastest rider. This is Sequoia Grove that we are going past now. Out there, this stunning area. We've got a lot of different areas to take a little look at this afternoon as the riders make their way around this particular course.
We really have had some fantastic aerial shots over the last few days. It's such a beautiful area, and I have to say I'm very surprised we haven't seen any rain the last couple of days we've been here. Let's wait for the road races again at the weekend though. I saw a prediction of some rain, but so far today it's looking like it will not rain.
This is Muzi Shabangu underway.
Yeah, this rider was second in the road race championships, the national championships earlier in the year.
Again, not choosing to ride the time trial bike. Comes from Eswatini and into that position as quick as possible as we go back here with Niels Pollitt. Ryan Mullen's gone through the first split with the fastest time. No surprise there. 1 minute and 19 seconds faster than Murodjan Kulmuratov. Ryan Mullen certainly moving well. Average speed right now, 50.418 kilometers an hour into a headwind towards the first split.
Yeah, that is impressive. It is a headwind, but it's still a quite fast first part of this time trial. I mean, it's an open, wide road. He'll be used to that, of course, in Ireland with the traditional British, Irish time trial events that they hold. Almost every single cycling club has a weekly time trial event on these dual carriageways, open roads. But we have heard a lot of riders explain how actually the roads feel very heavy around here. Even if they are flat, it almost feels a little bit like treacle, some of them, the heavy tarmac, the concrete.
We heard that from Tadej Pogačar yesterday. Daniel Bonello of Malta gets going into position straight away.
Another really cool kit. We've seen some amazing national kits this year. I feel like a lot of the nations have mixed it up and they're going a bit more dramatic, a bit more eccentric with their styles. That's personally one of my favourites. Very nice there from Malta.
The Maltese kit. Stirling Castle, the place of legend. It's been fully, the Royal Palace has been fully refurbished. We had a little bit of a walk around the castle and the palace earlier on, didn't we?
Yeah, we certainly did. We have the finish line right here, so it was nice to have a little look around, and you just realise how impressive and stunning the landscape is, and to have a time trial finish here, it really is remarkable.
Stirling Castle, the oldest football in the world was found in the palace at Stirling Castle, thought to date from the 1540s. It's now on show at the Smith Art Gallery and Museum in Stirling. So maybe football was created in Stirling Castle.
Maybe.
Maybe. Maybe not, but maybe. You never know. We go to the start of the Guinea rider, Bangura Abdoulaye. Gets going. Again, choosing to ride the road bike, but has got the aero bars to get into position.
A young rider, only 23 years of age. He's getting a big, nice warm welcome as he rolls down the ramp. And yeah, I think we've got more and more people joining this start area. It seems to be getting busier and busier.
It's amazing, isn't it, when you get a crowd, a small crowd starts to build, and then it just gets bigger and bigger, and people getting into the area and thinking, what's happening? And suddenly everybody is stood by the side of the road. It's incredible how many people watching the road races last weekend. We hope that we get the same crowd this weekend. Is there a little bit of rain up here at the finish at Stirling Castle? I'm starting to see some raindrops.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of cloud cover. We didn't have it this morning. It was perfect blue skies. And of course, in a time trial event, any time trial event, it really can change the result if you start on dry roads, if there's not much wind and then a storm rolls in and all of a sudden you've got heavy rain. It really does affect the performance of these riders, but it's something they can't control and they simply have to embrace whatever is sent their way when they start.
Jacob Jones underway for Guam. Immediately into that aero tuck. New second fastest time at the first split from the Canadian rider Nicholas Sukowski. And actually he's just been eclipsed and just beaten by Ryan Gibbons of South Africa. So the top rider at the first split is Ryan Mullen of Ireland. Ryan Gibbons of South Africa 5.07 seconds behind. Now that first split, Nicholas Sukowski of Canada in third place, 17 seconds down at the first intermediate time split this afternoon. Niels Pollitt, look at the speed that Pollitt's finding on this road. He seems to be flying along.
He really is. It'll be interesting to see what time he can put through that first check. It comes only 12.6 kilometres into the race, so it is very early on, but it does give a good indication of how well they've started and if they really need to make up some time or they're on top of it. And they will be getting that information from the car with race radios, of course.
William Gomez of Cape Verde underway, the oldest rider in the race, 49 years of age.
Well, he may be the oldest rider, and it's his first time at the World Championships. He certainly looks like a strong rider, doesn't he? Those big shoulders. Looks more like a sprinter, actually.
He does. He looks like if you put him in the Chris Hoy Velodrome, he might do something in the sprint.
That's fantastic to see an older rider, the oldest, as you said, and yet it's his first time ever in the time trial discipline at the World Championships.
Well, he looks very, very strong as we go back here with Jacob Jones.
He's only 26 years of age. He's not done that much racing. He's certainly not raced in Europe. So it'll be interesting to see how he compares to the other riders. He won't know, they won't know. But as we said anyway, it's a race against yourself, a race against the clock. It's a very personal effort. And then, as I said, you cross the line and then you compare yourself to the rest of the world.
The start of the Anguillan rider, Hassani Hennis. We've seen him ride in the road race at the weekend. He was actually on the attack during that road race. He went on the move to try and get across to the breakaway, maybe leaving things a little bit too late. It's definitely raining here at the finish line now, but just a little shower. Bit of grey cloud rolling across the finish line as well. So the Anguillan rider, Hassani Hennis, is underway.
This rider finished in 35th position at the Commonwealth Games, so he's had experience of racing at the highest level before. It'll be interesting to see how riders do recover and are able to perform at this race, because of course we had the road race on Sunday, which is quite unusual for the World Championships to have the men's road race before the men's time trial. So we've had enough days, but some riders really suffer. It was a very, very intense, hard race. Some are saying it was the hardest World Championship road race they've seen. And it will have taken its toll on a lot of riders to then try to recover, stay mentally focused, and then come to this time trial event and still produce a big effort. Riders will be used to opening up the legs in the time trial with this intense effort, and then the endurance event is the road race, which comes afterwards. So if we see any surprises, it could very well be because of that, the recovery process, that some riders, of course, differ.
This is Qais Haidari riding for Afghanistan. Linked in with that, it's an unusual time of the year to have the World Championships. So the riders that we've just seen, so at the moment, Ryan Mullen, Niels Pollitt, Ryan Gibbons are the top three riders of the first split. Coming out the back of the Tour de France for some of those riders, it's unusual to have the World Championships right now. How do you think that's impacted and affected these championships?
I think it would have had a very big effect, and more than anything, it's just a change, isn't it? Year after year, we always have the World Championships in September, kind of the end of the season. There are some more World Tour races that follow, but in everyone's mind, it is the pinnacle of the year, the end of the year, and everyone can kind of relax into the next season. And yeah, we are seeing this straight after the Tour de France, and we've still got the Vuelta. We've got another stage race, Grand Tour race to come. There's still many, many races on the calendar. Many riders will not even be considering it to be the end of the year. So for them to recover and mentally prepare to challenge for a World Championship title, I think it's going to be very difficult for some people to get into that mindset to actually continue racing after this, because yeah, year after year it's the last event really. And also, I mean, it goes back to what I just said about the road race being on a Sunday. How can people recover? You come out of the Tour de France, of course it is one of the most intense races you can do, 21 stages. It wasn't that long ago, and some people take a long time to recover, not just physically but also mentally. So I think it makes for a very interesting time trial today, and I'm sure the favourites will still be the favourites. They'll still be up there competing for the medals, but for some other riders it will have taken its toll, and maybe they aren't able to produce the wattage they wanted, or it may go the other way and they're still quite motivated, whereas end of September it's getting later in the season and people are more tired.
Blair Drummond Safari Park we just went past then, which is not far from Thornhill, which was famous for being a hideout for Rob Roy MacGregor, a Scottish clan chief in the late 1600s, who watched over the cattle herds. You saw the cattle there in the field. Rob Roy MacGregor was said to have borrowed a large sum of money to increase his own herd, but entrusted it to his chief herder, who disappeared with the money, and he was called an outlaw because he defaulted on a loan. We see the start of the next rider coming from Qatar. This is Fadeh Al Qatar getting going. Rob Roy MacGregor in this particular area is a folk hero. Loads of books and poems were written during his lifetime by the likes of Daniel Defoe and Sir Walter Scott. Rob Roy's story was turned into a Hollywood blockbuster in 1995. Starred Liam Neeson and Jessica Lange. This is Henry Tete Jangma, underway for Ghana this afternoon.
Interesting to see him riding a Dolan. That's of course from Terry Dolan from Great Britain near Liverpool, he's based. So nice to see a rider from Ghana riding on this bike brand.
That bike brand made famous by, of course, Terry Dolan was the person who helped Chris Boardman for a long time, many other British riders, but his bikes are seen now all over the world on the track and various different places. As we see now Charles Kajima riding for Uganda, wearing the helmet there of the Ineos Grenadiers, also on a Pinarello machine. We learned earlier on about the team of Ineos Grenadiers who've opened up an academy in Kenya, and some of these riders are getting some coaching from that particular academy as well. New fastest time at kilometre 12.6 from Ivar Knotten of Norway. He's gone through with an average speed of 51.074 kilometres an hour, 11.5 seconds faster than Ryan Mullen.
Yeah, that is a very fast time. And we were saying how Ryan Mullen started off well. He averaged over 50 kilometres per hour, but his time has already been beaten in these early stages.
Coming down to near Doon Castle. There it is in the background. Better known to many as the castle in Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and featured in the TV series Outlander as well. Was a retreat for the Stuart Kings from 1400 till 1603 until the Union of the Crowns. This is Chris Darrell riding for the British Virgin Islands.
32 years of age. Last year he finished in 45th position in the time trial event, so I'm sure he'll be hoping to better that performance. He's also been second before in the national championships in the time trial event, and last year he was the road race champion, so a strong rider. He's been racing for many years.
So Dari settling into the pace. We were talking earlier on about the impact of the Tour de France and into the World Championships, and how some riders will prepare well and recover well, and others necessarily won't go that way, and they might find it quite difficult. This rider having a little problem with his race radio, just trying to tuck it back into his ear, and he can't really hear anything, or something is going wrong. And we heard that overnight when yesterday, as we just go back to the start of Andreas Militadis of Cyprus, first Cypriot rider we've seen. Yesterday night, of course, everybody was wondering what happened to Marlen Reusser yesterday, why she ended up sitting in the grass at the side of the road. And she said last night, I just had to give up. It wasn't a mechanical problem, it was just me. She said it's a special situation. I've been cycling for a long time. It's my 7th World Championships, and I always race with passion. My life revolves around cycling. I love what I do. I love the lifestyle. I've got lots of positives, but since the Tour, I feel I need to breathe and rediscover my desire to go out and win. It's a bit like preparing for an exam. There's all the preparation, the stress of D-Day. When it's done, you relax. And I need that moment of relaxation. So yesterday, she said that she was caught in a spiral and she just couldn't push. And it demonstrates, doesn't it, that we see these athletes and we see the stars, and later on we're going to see some of the biggest stars in men's cycling. But what we don't always think about is the fact that behind that is a human being who's going through the same that everybody else goes through day after day. And sometimes they just need a reset. And I think what Marlen Reusser did in many ways yesterday, as we go back to Ingvar Marsson of Iceland, what she did yesterday in many ways is quite a big example to everybody and fans to look at that and say she had, some people will say it's a weakness, and I think it's not. I think it's a strength of mine to say, do you know what, I just need to stop right now, and I'll come back next year and I'll be a lot stronger than I was this time.
Yeah, and I think particularly for the women's peloton, of course now it's fantastic they have the Tour de France Femme avec Swift, but it is 1 week after the men's Tour de France, and therefore it's closer this year to these championships. And as we said, normally the championships aren't in August, they are later, so maybe in the following years it won't be an issue, but obviously for her, she just felt she didn't have enough time from one absolutely huge major event, the pinnacle of the sport, to then go into the championships, the World Championships, which is of course so important for so many riders. To have those two big events back to back, essentially, you don't even have time to think, never mind appreciate. Of course, she won the final stage of the Tour de France Femme avec Swift, to even celebrate and enjoy that win, because straight away you're focusing on the World Championship. So yeah, of course riders are all different, and some like the pressure, but many struggle with it. And yeah, it was incredible to see her actually come out and say all of that.
Alexei Fomovsky of Uzbekistan.
3, 2, 1, go.
Underway for the rider from Uzbekistan. And perhaps what Marlen Reusser did yesterday is an example to everybody to say, sometimes you have to just look at your priorities and work out which event is the big one, which event isn't, and be able to look at how you peak for both and change your program. She's seen as one of the big stars of the sport now after winning 2 stages of the Tour de France, who was aiming for the World Championship yesterday. Look how manicured this golf course is. Absolutely stunning as we head our way towards finding the riders out on the course. And as women's cycling's grown, and it's growing superbly and growing massively, maybe that reset for a rider like Marlen Reusser is needed, because you can get caught up in the way that the sport has progressed so fast, and for her to say, do you know what, next year I'm going to focus on this race and this race and this race and not be full on for the whole season. It's all part of the learning curve. This rider is the rider who's been having a problem with the race radio as we go back to the start again. This is the rider from Iran, Mohamed Gankarunlu.
26 years of age. He was 6th in the time trial, in the road race championships in Iran earlier in the year. So he's an experienced rider. Maybe not so much on the world stage. I think this is his first ever World Championship appearance.
Working our way through the riders taken to this race start today. The biggest names will come towards the end. But we've already got Ryan Mullen and Niels Pollitt out on the course. Eva Knotton is the fastest rider at the first split. No riders have reached the 34-kilometre split yet. But the top three at the moment, Eva Knotton, Ryan Mullen, Niels Pollitt, are the top riders at the first split point this afternoon. This is Ben Healy. One of the perhaps favourites for this afternoon to get certainly in a top 10 position. Healy is a fantastic bike rider. Came to prominence maybe this year when he won stages of the Giro d'Italia. This is Juan Pablo Dotti of Argentina. Settling into his rhythm. The Argentinian rider. Just wondering where his following car was as he made his way past that particular point. And the crowd is getting bigger and bigger. Back out with Hazani Hennis, still at the first split. Eva Knotton, Ryan Mullen and Niels Pollitt are our top riders at that particular point. The Norwegian rider, teammate of Tobias Foss, who's the defending champion. Eva Knotton rides for Team Nippo Provence in 2021. 24 years of age, used to ride for the Joker team as well, and Team Coupe. Kind of moved around different small teams. Back to the start then with Vitaly Novakovsky of Ukraine.
He's 26 years of age. Last year in Australia in the World Championships, he actually finished in 37th position in this individual time trial men's elite event. He's the current national champion.
First rider arrives at the second intermediate split, Ahmad Ouais for this refugee team. 43.2 kilometres an hour, 48 minutes, 13.56. Goes nicely round on those aero skis. Lovely weather back out on the course now. The rain stopped at the finish line as well.
Yeah, but look how open it is. It's not particularly too windy at the moment out there on the course, but it is so open in these early kilometres, and if the wind direction does change, if it picks up later on, it could cause chaos. It could really change the outcome of the race, but it looks to be quite calm at the moment, which I'm sure many of the riders are happy about.
This is Tom Scoynes. Rode well in the road race at the weekend, didn't he? Had a fantastic performance.
Yeah, he certainly did. He had a very strong ride. He was up there in and amongst it.
Start of Chu Ming of China. The rider's going at 1 minute 20-second intervals this afternoon. And we are now going to start to move into the portion of this field with some of the biggest names in world cycling. Chasing the World Championship.
Yeah, he's the current time trial champion. Of course, we're seeing many riders here are the national champions of their respective countries, and it just shows, of course, they are the strongest in the event in their nation, and they've been given the nod to come and compete against the rest of the world and see how they measure up in the time trial event. This distance is extremely long, 47.8 kilometres. And I think I actually saw an interview with the likes of Evenepoel actually saying it's one of his longest time trials that he will have ever done, which seems bizarre to even consider.
It is a long way this afternoon. This is the National Wallace Monument. This area, known for the Battle of Stirling Bridge in 1297, immortalised in the film Braveheart. And the start of Onion Ilic of Serbia. It's going off the start line. When you've got a distance of 47.8 kilometres, any of these riders will take on any nutrition during this ride? Will they have a gel or anything like that just to keep the nutrition levels high? Because it's a pretty hefty effort, 47K.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I mean, of course, before the race, they will be well nourished. They'll have had various pre-race meals at specific times. They'll then moderate the amount of sugar, the gel intake, the energy load. But quite often riders do take a quick energy gel, and they will, maybe you can see, they're quite disguised. They have, of course, aerodynamic water bottle, and often they will have some sort of mix or energy products in the water bottles, which just gives them those extra little bits of sugar and salt that they may need, because it is a long way, it's a long effort. But everybody, of course, is very individual, and they've got their own nutritionists and their own process, and some people may not like to actually eat during this event.
Christophe Rougier-Lejean riding for Mauritius.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Gets going, rolling down the ramp. Christopher Rougier-Lejean underway for Mauritius. Very focused start from him.
We've seen a lot of riders rolling down the ramp and then very quickly getting onto the skis, getting into that aero position. We saw previously some riders prefer to sprint before they go into the aero tuck, but more frequently we're seeing people just get down the ramp and straight into the aero position, and simply because it's straight, open, wide roads, they don't have to brake and go around any corners. They can get as aero as possible, as quick as possible, and get up to speed during the course.
Patrick Gamper rode very well in the weekend at the road race. He's involved in a lot of the early action, Patrick Gamper. He's waiting for this last little bit of preparation as we go back to the start of Ben Healy, the 22-year-old rider from Ireland.
Yeah, as you mentioned before, Ant, he's had an absolute standout season. He's still so young. He's only 22 years of age. He was second at Amstel Gold Race, fourth at Liège. He almost came from nowhere, and he's been competing with the best of the best. He's opted not to wear a visor today on the helmet, the special aero helmet.
You'll also notice as we go back to another Irishman, this is Ryan Mullen, who's going to go through the second intermediate split with the fastest time so far. Starting to show a little bit of pressure. Ryan Mullen, 41 minutes and 39 seconds through this time trial. Before he was very, very smooth. From that front shot, you're starting to see a bit of rock as he starts to move left and right a little bit. This is Ben Healy, the other Irishman. Healy is rapid, isn't he? We saw him win that stage of the Giro d'Italia, and it was a time trial effort that he put in on his own. He's a rider who we see in the time trial who hardly ever looks up the road as to where he's going.
Yeah, he certainly looks to be looking down. I'm sure he is obviously looking where he's going, but he looks very aerodynamic, and as I said, for such a young rider, I think he's got a bright future ahead of him. He's had some incredible results this year, and I think he's just gone from race to race, building extra confidence, so I'm sure he'll be really, really motivated for today's ride.
This is Tom Scoynes.
Yeah, he really had a great performance in the road race on Sunday. He finished in 8th position. Of course, he made it into that winning breakaway, which simply was due to the race being so hard. It was a race of attrition, and he lasted. He was always in the right position, in the right place when it was really, really getting tough, and he lasted all the way to the end. He's a 4-time national champion in the time trial event.
Rides for the Lidl Trek Trey team. He's worn the King of the Mountains jersey in the Tour de France. Everything well dialed on that bike this afternoon, isn't he? He's even got the feild-in chainring on the front. Really big gear, big deep section carbon front wheel. Nice high risers to try and cut the frontal area. Look at the size of that chainring he's riding this afternoon. It's massive.
It really, really is. And I think we'll see quite a variety of gearing. Not that we can see exactly, but you can tell a little bit from the size of the chain rings and the cadence. And of course, it's very personal. Some people prefer to have a very high cadence. Others prefer to maul a big gear, particularly on these open, wide, flat roads. It just depends how much power output they can make, and some people do prefer just a spin.
Ben Healy settled down into his position. These Cannondale time trial bikes. Very aerodynamic. Settling himself onto the smoother road now. Michael Rogers there in the background. Rogers has won this world title on 3 occasions. The technical head of the technical area of the UCI talked to Maciej Bodnar. They're former teammates at one point, actually. Michael Rogers now is responsible for making sure all the checks are done and the rules and the technical areas, and trying to think about how you work within the rules for the UCI being happy, the riders being happy. And Michael Rogers, with that experience and that knowledge, having been a 3-time world champion, is very useful indeed. As we go back to the start, Militadis Janoussos.
Oh, another fantastic kit.
You like the brightest ones, don't you, with all the different chevrons and squares and triangles and things, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. Anything that's different is always good. We're seeing a lot of different kits, though, this year being presented at the World Championships.
Flying out towards Stirling Castle. When you were racing in Worlds and Olympics, is there one of your kits that's your favourite, as we see Ryan Gibbons coming up to the intermediate time split to go second fastest, 15.4 seconds? Was there a moment you pulled on a Great Britain kit and you thought, yeah, this is the one?
Probably the very first one, because it's always the most special when you finally get your hands on a national not championship, a national federation kit.
Ben Healy flying along. Look how low that head is, the way he keeps his nose almost on the forearms.
I wonder what he's thinking. This is another thing with these long events, 47.8 kilometers. It's a lot of time to think about how much you're suffering.
Another member of the Bora Hansgrohe team on the road. This is Patrick Gamper of Austria.
He had a strong ride also on Sunday in the road race, where he finished in 22nd position. He's the current national time trial champion from Austria, the 26-year-old.
Settles himself into his rhythm. He rides a massive gear, Patrick Gamper. It's almost like the legs are in slow motion.
Yeah, it really is. He looked like he wasn't even moving then, but I'm sure he's putting out a lot of watts.
This is Leonard Kemner. Kemner about to get going, a former junior world champion, as you can see, in 2014. Another member of that Bora Hansgrohe team. This is Tom Scoynes. I don't know what it means on his Trek bike on the side there, 00.00.00. Back to the start of Derek G. Now, this is a rider who we really got to know during the Giro d'Italia this year, who was on the attack so many days, really made a name for himself, so many second places, didn't quite win a stage. He was second on stage 8, second on stage 10, second on stage 14, second on stage 19, and ended up finishing 22nd on the general classification and 2nd in the points classification.
Yeah, you have to feel for him with all those second places. If they were first, of course, imagine taking away 4 stage wins from the Giro would have been incredible, but he certainly made a name for himself, as you said. He almost came from nowhere, and he was talked about in the media almost every single day because of his riding style. He really is a racer, and I think we'll see a lot from him in the coming years.
This is the start of Lawson Craddock shortly. Just getting those last preparations done as we go back out to the second split with Niels Pollitt. Pollitt's going to go through there with the 3rd fastest time now, riding for Germany this afternoon. 25 seconds down on his trade teammate, Ryan Mullen. It's getting warm this afternoon again, isn't it? It's gone from a little bit of rain, now bright sunshine. Back to the starts. This is Mathieu Bodnar, a stage winner in the Tour de France in the time trial.
Yeah, he's also an 8-time national champion. Last year in this event, of course, when it was in Australia, he finished in 18th place.
Bodnar tends to ride a very big gear. He'll just roll that gear over, got the cadence going into that aero tuck. You can see the flag blowing now to the left-hand side shoulder for these riders.
Yeah, it's certainly changed a little bit from this morning when it was almost a dead straight headwind.
That means when the riders turn left at the end of this course, they'll start to go into more of a headwind, but it's probably starting to assist these riders a little bit more. Less problems. So let's just take a look at the splits for you. At the first split, it's Eva Knotten, who is the leader ahead of Ryan Mullen and Niels Pollitt. At the second split, it's Ryan Mullen ahead of Ryan Gibbons ahead of Niels Pollitt. Nicholas Zukowski's just gone through the second split with the 4th fastest time. Back to the start for Stefan de Bod, the South African, another South African rider taken to the start this afternoon. We've seen Ryan Gibbons, who's setting some good times out on the course. Stefan de Bod, also a good time trialist.
Yeah, he's the current national champion from South Africa. He's been an African champion before in 2019. So he's certainly a strong rider, riding for the EF team, World Tour team.
This is Eva Knotten. Well, there's a turnaround. He's now 8.5 seconds down on Ryan Mullen. He was 11 seconds, 11.5 seconds ahead of Ryan Mullen at the first split. So Mullen started to turn the tables, taking 19 seconds out of him between the 2 checkpoints this afternoon.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of riders coming in with the fastest times as the day goes on. We saw it happening a lot in the junior race this afternoon, and not necessarily the rider that goes through the first time check or even the time check, the second time check is the one that's winning at the end. We've had a lot of changes throughout the day, and because of course the varied terrain and finishing on this steep coal climb up to the finish line in Stirling.
Mateusz Facek of the Czech Republic gets going.
He's a young rider, only 21 years of age. He didn't finish the road race just a few days ago, but hopefully he's recovered now and he's ready for this event. He was 3rd in the National Time Trial Championships, and he is the current national road race champion.
Stirling University that we see now. Home to over 18,000 students. About 140 countries represented by that student population, sitting in that lovely open parkland that we just flew over. Welcome along, I'm Anthony McCrossan. Alongside me is Lucy Martin. We're ready for the start of Leonard Kemner. His last preparations, little gel poked down the aero skin suits. We were asking about nutrition earlier on. Lucy said the riders will probably take a gel on board at some point. And there's an example there of Leonard Kemner just putting it somewhere that he can just get to quickly. He'll take it out on the course, maybe a quarter or a third of the way through this race.
Yeah, it's always hard. If you do want to carry a gel, where do you carry it? Of course, in the road race, you put it in your back pocket. Here, when they're putting so much emphasis on being aerodynamic, you don't necessarily want it in the back pocket. You don't have a back pocket normally on a skin suit. So some riders actually put them in the leg, the sleeve, should I say, of their the skin suit, so they can just nip it out. But of course, when you are pushing down on those pedals, it's not necessarily the most secure place. So he's opted for the collar, the neck area, to put his gel. I don't know if that's going to be super comfortable though for him, but everybody has different techniques.
Patrick Gamper of Austria, wearing number 34 in this World Championship time trial. Seems to be going well so far. We are getting close to the first finishers of this time trial. Ryan Mullen's got through the second split. This is us with Derek G of Canada.
It's a hard event, the time trial event, but particularly when it's so long at 47.8 kilometers. It really takes a lot of mental strength, not only physical strength, just to actually keep focused, and particularly on this course because it's not very technical. So when you're on those long straight roads like we're seeing right now, it is hard to just continue to suffer essentially. You have to keep focusing and just pushing down on those pedals. Some riders might decide to pick a point in the near distance and just aim for that, and then pick another one and just continue like that. But of course, it's a long way, and we're going to see the fastest time soon when the riders come through, and then we'll get an idea of exactly how long it has taken the riders to complete this course. It's not very hilly, but it's certainly long and hard.
Here's our first finisher of this time trial. Ahmed Ouais of the refugee team sets the standard, 42.5 kilometers. 1 hour, 7 minutes, 26.67 is his time. And he can barely get himself into the parking on the left-hand side of this road.
1 hour and 7 minutes. That's how long these riders are suffering. They're out there, they're by themselves. It's them against the clock.
Want water? It's okay. It's okay.
He's able to stand up, so that's good news. At the third split, Ryan Mullen's gone through with the fastest time. This is Evgeny Fedorov, under-23 world champion last year. 42.524 kilometers an hour was the average speed of Ahmed Ouais. Fedorov gets going.
You can see just the speed of this ride. I always love these aerial shots. You can see exactly how fast they're going, and these long straight roads. It is really hard to stay focused, as we were just talking about, but at least it's not technical. It's just a real test of the physical ability, this course here in Stirling, in Glasgow. Of course, it finishes up a very steep climb. It's not super long, but it is on cobbles, and we're seeing a lot of changes in the junior events of the riders trying to get their way up those cobbles as fast as possible.
This is Lawson Craddock, about to start. The United States rider, very good time trialist, former national champion, rides for Jaco Alula.
Yeah, he's one of the riders that, like many in this race today on the start list, come straight from the Tour de France. He also raced San Sebastian, so not much time to recover from that huge event, but here they are at the World Championships.
This is Bruno Amarai, French champion in 2022 in the time trial, with Thomas Faulkner on the right-hand side. This is Ryan Mullen. going to try and set the standard for everyone else to beat, just spinning his way up this final climb. He's had a good time trial this afternoon. Ryan Mullen has not really relented in the pace he's been setting all day. And let's see what he's going to finish in. Mullen of Ireland is going to go into the hot seat as the fastest rider. Ryan Mullen with a time of 58 minutes, 21.57. Good enough to go into the hot seat. 49 kilometers an hour across that course.
Yeah, that is impressive. Such a long distance, as we keep saying, 47.8 kilometers. So to maintain that average the whole way round is very impressive. And yeah, of course, we've seen he's dipped inside the 1 hour mark, and I think we're going to see many more riders do that.
Dan Hula underway for the Netherlands. Choosing not to put any visor or glasses on this afternoon.
It's always interesting, isn't it, how different riders are with the selection of materials. And you'd think every rider would almost be wearing the same because it's been proven to be aerodynamic or not, but they still don't. They're still very varied with skin suits, helmets, visors, no visors, bikes, wheel choice.
It used to be the case, didn't it? Everybody said, right, you need an aero helmet, you have to have a visor on, you wear a skin suit, you should wear overshoes, and then you dial the position down, drop the handlebars and go as low as you possibly can. Now it's all changed where everybody knows that it depends on the rider. Some riders would go really quick in one of these wide aero hats. Some go better in a narrow aero hat. Some people go better with sunglasses on rather than a visor. Just completely depends on the rider and the way they're made up, as we go back with Nelson Oliveira of Portugal.
Yeah, the rider who, of course, races for the Movistar, the Spanish World Tour team. He's been a 4-time national champion. And yeah, you're right, and it wasn't that long ago when it was kind of, you tick a box and that's what everyone did and that's what everyone wore, and it was get as low as possible, as you said. And then all of a sudden, I think, like anything in sport, in technology, they're always looking for the next best thing and the next best design, shape to the helmet, as we're now looking at Rowan Dennis.
This is Rowan Dennis, his final World Championship time trial. Twice world champion, Olympic Games bronze medalist. This rider is riding what may well be his last race. He has done everything he can to be here in his very best form.
Yeah, it's a very, very important and special day for the Australian. The Australian team have had a fantastic championships, particularly in the time trial event. We saw the men and the women winning gold in the time trial juniors, and then of course in the elite women's race we saw Grace Brown finishing second yesterday. So they've had a great performance in the time trial event.
The start of the Frenchman Bruno Amarai. He gets going, former French champion, sprints his way out of the start. A very, very good time trial as Bruno Amarai really focuses on the time trial.
Yeah, and you can see that with his results. Last year he finished 10th in this event. I think he'll be definitely looking for another top 10 finish today. He rides for the FDJ World Tour team, so he's used to the biggest level of competition.
Here's the junior world champion of last year, Josh Tarling. He's chosen to go straight in and ride the elite time trial to see if he can win a medal this afternoon.
Yeah, he's certainly a very big talent, and Ineos Grenadiers know he's a big talent. They've signed him up till 2025, despite his young age. He's only 19, as you said, so national champion for Great Britain. I think we're going to see a lot from him today and in the future.
The arrival of Ryan Gibbons. This is going to be really close to the time of Ryan Mullen. Gibbons has been accelerating all the way along the course, and Gibbons finishes with the second fastest time so far, only 5 seconds down on the time of Ryan Mullen.
It's always incredible, isn't it? It's such a long distance, 47.8k, and yet they can be so close, 5 seconds in it.
The start of Casper Asgreen, stage winner in the Tour de France this year, former winner of the Tour of Flanders. This guy is a big, powerful time trialist.
Yeah, he certainly is. He's the current time trial champion. from Denmark, and of course Denmark is just getting stronger and stronger as a nation, as a cycling nation. Here's one of the race favourites, looking very calm. He's already got a silver medal on Sunday in the World Championships. Of course, he won't be super happy with that. He's always out for gold. Wout van Aert.
Surely, at some point, the second places need to turn into firsts. Wout van Aert getting ready for this time trial. He's got the cold vest on there. He's got the aero suit, the Red Bull helmet that he always wears. As we go back to the start of his very final time trial in the World Championships. A rider whose career has been synonymous with time trialing. Rowan Dennis, absolute focus, full mask ready for this race. His final date with a World Championship time trial, and the countdown begins.
I'd have to say it's a course that definitely suits him. He's won the World Championships twice, as you mentioned earlier, 2019 and 2018, so it's a few years ago now. And of course everybody wants those rainbow bands, but if there's ever a day where he could win, it would be today on this type of course.
And Rowan Dennis, when he prepares for something, he prepares for something.
Yep, he really does. And you can see that with all the results he's had. When he's on, he's on. And today, of course, is super important, his last World Championship. So it's certainly a day where he is on.
Stefan Bissiger making his way towards the start. At the finish, Ryan Mullen is in the hot seat. Ryan Gibbons is silver medalist. Just finishing, Nicholas Zukowski of Canada, who's gone into third place.
Here's these specialized helmets we were talking about earlier in the junior race. Very unusual, and it's always quite interesting to see how the various brands try to become as aerodynamic as possible and as wacky as possible, because to me that looks very wacky, but it's been proven time and time again to be one of the most aerodynamic helmets. It just looks a little bit bizarre.
Mattia Cattaneo is about to get going. The arrival of Niels Pollitt, trying to close in on the time of Ryan Mullen, but the time has gone past. So Niels Pollitt is going to finish now, and his time is going to be third fastest time. The start here of Bran McNulty shortly. McNulty just getting himself ready. Final warm-up begins. How long before the race will the riders start their warm-up? As we go back to the start of the Junior World Champion last year, Josh Tarling.
Yeah, I mean, it's always very different based on the rider, but in general, they'll normally warm up between 20 and 30 minutes, and then even jump off, finish their warm-up at least 10 minutes to go. They don't want to be rushing, they don't want to be stressed. They've been dialed in, they're very practiced with these with the time trial process, the warm-up, but they often jump off, give themselves about 10 minutes, walk over to the start area, they sit down, kind of regather the thoughts, the mechanic will be checking the bike, they sit there, they wait, they get ready, and then they head out. And I mean, today, it's of course very important, the warm-up, but it is such a long time trial. It's different to if you have a prologue, a shorter 20-kilometer time trial, for example. You can start a little bit easier when it's such a long distance. You still need to go out giving an 80%, for example. You know, you can't go out already sprinting 100% because it's such a long distance, but they need to be warmed up. They need to make sure they can hit the watts needed, the speed needed, and particularly on this first stretch, as we're seeing, it's quite windy, it's quite open, but they are definitely calm, and it's more about staying focused.
The start of Wout van Aert. Can this rider win this World Championship this afternoon? He desperately wants the rainbow jersey. Wout van Aert gets going now.
I was just going to say, for such a winner, such an established rider, it's incredible to see how many times he's actually finished in second place in the World Championships, in the road race, also in the time trial event. He really does want this gold medal. He deserves it. He can win it, of course. He's won so many races, almost every race you can think of. He's won it. He's the current national time trial champion. Last year, of course, he won so many stages of the Tour de France, including the time trial event. He can pretty much do everything. Will today be his day? He was second in the road race, and you could see on his face how disappointed he was not to get that gold.
Silver medalist in 2021 and 2020. Kasper Asgreen into the first part of this time trial. At the first split, Leonard Kemner's just gone through with the fastest time, 51.669 kilometres an hour. Stefan de Bod is 4 seconds down. Eva Knotten in third place in this time trial in the first intermediate split so far. Back with one of the fastest time trialists in the world, Stefan Bissiger, rides for the EF Education Easy Post team. Stefan Bissiger about to go.
He, of course, already has a rainbow jersey from the mixed team relay a few days ago, where Switzerland dominated. He was the European time trial champion last year in 2022. He was also 5th in this event last year in Australia, the World Championships. He's only 24. I often forget he's actually still such a young rider because he's had so many great results, particularly in the time trial event. So he is one of the favourites today, as we also look now at another race favourite, Rowan Dennis.
Rowan Dennis, the metronomic pedalling style of one of the best time trialists of his generation. And the arrival of Harold Tejada, the Colombian rider, as he finishes now with the 5th fastest time. Rides for the Astana team. These riders taking themselves to their limit, just trying to recover after that ride. Next rider to go will be Søren Vanderschold, who's won a world title before.
Yep, he certainly has, the rider who races for Uno X World Tour races. He's in and out of all sorts of races, the rider from Norway. He's the current national champion.
Søren Vanderschold underway.
We've only got 15 riders left to start. They will all be out on course, and of course it is a long day. We've seen the fastest time is just under 1 hour, so they might all start very soon, but we've still got a long way to go in this men's individual time trial world championship event.
Intermediate 1 down there on the right hand side, Leonard Kemner, who is 4 seconds ahead of Stefan de Bod, with Fedorov, the under-23 world champion in the past, 8.9 seconds down. Eva Knotten in 4th place, Matty Bodnar in 5th place. Ryan Mullen down in 8th place at that first split, to give you an idea of how these riders are going along the course. This is Mikael Bjerg, 3 times at under-23 world champion, but incredibly hadn't won a World Tour race in the time trial until a few weeks ago.
Yeah, very surprising.
Xavier Asparan, riding for Spain this afternoon.
Of course, normally races for Euskaltel, the 24-year-old. He was 5th in the national championship, so maybe not his best event, but I'm sure he's going to give it his best efforts today. It is the World Championships. He's straight into that aero tuck, as we've seen many, many riders doing today. Straight down the ramp and straight onto those aero handlebars.
Now here on the course with Bruno Amorai riding for France. You can see how quickly he's making his way along this road. It's now 20 degrees. The wind's a little bit stronger. We can see the trees opposite our commentary position really blowing now. 20 degrees, partly cloudy, 18 km/h winds. Amorai looking fast.
He's got that really smooth cadence, Not too big of a gear, not spinning a gear, he's just got the right balance. He knows what to do in the time trial event. He finished 10th here last year in the World Championships. Tarling, however, such a young rider, 19 years of age. He's got so much to learn, and yet he's still performed so well. He is, of course, as we mentioned, the junior world champion from 2022.
Brandon McNulty.
4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Underway for Brandon McNulty. Good time trialist McNulty, isn't he? Rides for UAE Team Emirates.
Yeah, he certainly is. Giro stage winner. He's had some fantastic results. In 2019, he was third, however, though, in the individual time trial event at under 23 level.
Settles himself into his rhythm. This is the face of Remco, the TGV from Clermont-Ferrand. He's affectionately known as. Just getting himself ready, the Frenchman. Going back out on the course with Wout van Aert.
Such a powerful rider, isn't he? Van Aert, you can just see he's a tall rider, he's strong. He, of course, finished second in what was an absolutely amazing road World Championships on Sunday. He can pretty much do everything, but can he win the gold medal today here in Stirling in the individual time trial?
He's certainly moving well, up at 53 kilometres an hour. Back with Jos van Emden, a stage winner in a Grand Tour in a time trial. All smiles from him. He looks like he's enjoying himself. He rides for the Jumbo-Visma team. He's won the mixed relay team time trial in the World Championships as well.
One of the older riders in the World Tour peloton, 38 years of age. He's the current national champion, and he also won the event in 2019 and also as far back as 2010. So he's certainly been around a lot. He's very experienced.
Jos van Emden into the first stages of this time trial. New fastest time at the first split from Nelson Oliveira. Time of 14 minutes 33.10, 4.79 seconds ahead of Leonard Kemner and 8.84 seconds ahead of Stefan de Bod. Nelson Oliveira rides for Movistar, that you outlined earlier on, but a really good time trial. It's very good on this sort of terrain.
Yeah, he is, but I mean, if you go through the list, there's so many riders that you could say are really suited to this course. It's not a particularly hard course in terms of the technicalities. There's not that many corners. It is just a pure race against the clock. As we mentioned a few times, the weather conditions aren't really anything to talk of. It's not too windy, it's not raining, it's not wet. It really is who is the strongest and who can handle this lengthy distance today.
New Zealander Tom Sexton about to go.
One of the few riders that actually doesn't race in Europe that often. He's not on a World Tour team. He did win the Oceania time trial title earlier this year in January or February, sorry. So he's certainly been around. He's had a strong start to the season, and now he's trying to measure up and see if he can really compete on the world stage against these riders that race day in, day out across the world in the World Tour peloton.
This is Tadej Pogačar, double Tour de France winner, podium finisher in a Tour de France this year. Rowan Dennis coming up towards the first split of the day. We'll get an idea of how he's going. This is Josh Tarling. Tarling rides a massive gear, doesn't he? The way he's going right now, he doesn't have a high cadence.
Yeah, and it's quite unusual to see for such a young rider, 19 years of age. He's, of course, got a lot of developing still to do, but he's quite happy to push that big gear.
This is the Portuguese rider, João Almeida. He's worn the Maglia Rosa of the Giro d'Italia. João Almeida underway for Portugal.
Yeah, he's the current national time trial champion. Only 25 years of age. Rides for UAE Team Emirates, of course, with teammates with Pogačar. He didn't finish the road race on Sunday. It was, of course, a very brutal race, as we keep mentioning. I hope he's recovered well. He's here, he's taken to the start line. There was a lot of riders that didn't finish that race simply because of the nature of the course. It was so demanding, so hard. They'll have gone back to the drawing board, recovered well to try and be in the best possible shape for today's time trial event.
Had a little crash at the beginning of the road race and took him about 20 kilometres to get into the peloton because the race started, even although he'd crashed and neutralised, the race director decided that the race could start without Almeida back in the peloton, which was a little bit unusual. But Almeida finally made it back. Ultimately, it was academic after the protest that happened, so he got himself into that peloton. As we go back to the race start to the Frenchman, Remco, new fastest time at the first split. Kasper Asgreen's gone through with the best time so far. And new second fastest time for Rowan Dennis, 6.93 seconds down on Kasper Asgreen at the first split. Remco gets started.
He had a strong ride in the World Championships last year. He finished in 11th position. He's the current national time trial champion of France, so expecting a big ride from him today. I'm sure he's trying to get into that top 10 after finishing in 11th place last year. Interesting though, Rowan wasn't the fastest through the first time check.
Yeah, Kasper Asgreen leads at the first split ahead of Rowan Dennis. As we go past Doon Castle, we've looked at this during today. Rowan Dennis in second place, 6.93 seconds down. Bruno Amorai, 7.18 seconds down. Then it's Nelson Oliveira. We're suddenly getting riders beating that fastest time. But in order to beat the time of Kasper Asgreen, you've got to average over 52.5 kilometres an hour into that headwind.
Yeah, it's a tough feat. The riders know that they've got to make up time early on. It gets a little bit more technical towards the back end, but this is where the real powerhouses can make up time early on into that headwind. It might have changed slightly to a crosswind. We'll see now when we see the start flags. It's certainly not easy, though.
Mikael Bjerg, riding for Denmark, gets going. Mikael Bjerg out on the course now. It's amazing how many UAE riders are in the final section. We've just seen João Almeida. We now see Mikael Bjerg. In a couple of riders' time, we'll have Tadej Pogačar. Following him will be Jay Vine. They all ride for the team of UAE. This is Wout van Aert out on the course. We're waiting for him to arrive. New second fastest time at the first split. Mattia Cattaneo riding for Italy this afternoon. Teammate of Kasper Asgreen. So the top three, Asgreen, Cattaneo, Dennis. That's the top three, split by 6.93 seconds at the first intermediate split point. And a new fastest time, wow. New fastest time at the first split. Josh Tarling has gone through 18.8 seconds faster than Kasper Asgreen with an average speed of nearly 54 kilometres an hour at the first split.
And let's just remind ourselves, he's 19 years of age. He has signed, as we said, for Ineos, the World Tour team. They have decided he is the next big talent. He's got a contract till 2025, and he certainly is showing everybody today he is a very special talent.
He is Welter Vargas of Colombia. Only 7 more riders left to start this individual time trial this afternoon of 47.8 kilometres.
This rider's only been at the World Championships once before in 2016. He finished in 41st place in the time trial, but he's back for more in 2023.
Stefan Bissegger, the Swiss rider, clocking along at 59 to 60 kilometres an hour, making it look simple, but absolutely ripping it along this road. Looking across at Stirling Castle. The top three at the first split, Tarling, Asgreen, Cattaneo. We wait for the arrival of the rest of the top riders at the second split. Today we have got the top three being Mullen, Connaughton and Gibbons. The start now of Tadej Pogačar.
It is hard to even process the fact that this rider's only 24 years of age. When you look at his results, it's just simply incredible. Last year he was 6th in this event, the year before 10th. So he's not been on the podium yet. He's of course been on the podium in the road race, as we saw on Sunday when he got the bronze medal, and he said it was one of the hardest races he's ever actually done.
He had to be almost lifted out of the area of the media area because he was about to collapse after putting himself so deep into that road race. Now a surprise here. This is Wout van Aert, and Wout van Aert has gone through the first split 6th fastest, 27 seconds down on the time of Josh Tarling, which is a massive surprise.
Yeah, that is a very big surprise. There's still a long way to go. Maybe he's deciding to pace himself at the start and pick it up at the finish, but it just actually shows how impressive that ride is so far from the young 19-year-old to go that much faster, 27 seconds faster than a rider such as Van Aert.
Josh Tarling is a massive talent. He chose to ride this time trial rather than ride any other, so we know he's prepared. Jay Vine of Australia could be a surprise this afternoon. Jay Vine about to get going. Only 5 more riders left to take the start.
Yeah, this is Jay's first World Championships. He won the overall general classification at the Tour Down Under, of course a home race for him, so that was a very big achievement. Rides for Team UAE Emirates. Not a bad time trialist. He was 7th on a Giro stage in the time trial, as we now look at one of the hot favourites for this event.
He will go 3rd from last, Remco Evenepoel. Another surprise, Stefan Bissegger's gone through with the 10th fastest time at the first split, 42.5 seconds down on Josh Tarling. Now, you wonder whether Tarling's just gone out a little bit too rich this afternoon. Maybe it's too much. 53.7 kilometres an hour into what is a fairly hefty wind.
Yeah, perhaps that is exactly right. We will see a bit later in the 2nd and 3rd intermediate time checks, so anything can change. It's still a long, long way to go.
Double winner of this World Championship in the past, Filippo Ganna of Italy is about to go. Ganna with a newly painted bike. He unveiled it a couple of days ago, and he's now getting into time trial modes.
Yeah, as you said, he's already won this event twice before, but not only has he won the rainbow bands, he's won them this week at this championships. On the track, of course, he won the individual pursuit and the team pursuit, so he's no stranger to pulling on that rainbow jersey, and he is clearly a favourite for today. He's won almost every time trial there has been in every kind of stage race. I think one of the most impressive performances was in the 2020 Giro d'Italia, his home race, of course, and he finished in 1st place in every single individual time trial stage at that Giro, and there was 3. So he certainly is one of the most dominant time trial riders.
Tadej Pogačar, we go back to the race starts. Now this is a Tour de France winner and a podium finisher in the Giro d'Italia, Geraint Thomas, who's decided to ride this time trial, who says he's never got to the World Championships in good condition for years, but today he is. What will Geraint Thomas do? He's about to go.
It would be very special, wouldn't it, to see him pull on the rainbow bands today, a home World Championships. He was 4th in the event in 2020, and as you said, he's never really been up there in the championships. He's always had an illness, injury. It comes straight after certain events. He's been preparing for Tour de France, for example, and then not backed up well. So let's see if he is in good shape. Has he been able to pull it all together for this event on this day?
There must be a reason why Geraint Thomas decided to focus on this time trial. We know he's in the twilight of his career. He says it's coming to an end. He says he realises that. But for Geraint Thomas to spend the time to prepare, to come here, to ride the World Championships, to not think about the road race, to just focus purely on the time trial, there has to be a reason.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, it could be anything, but it is a course that suits him. and it is, of course, a World Championships in Great Britain. It doesn't really get much better than that for him to be able to pull on the rainbow bands so close to home. Of course, he's from Wales.
Former World Road Champion, winner of La Vuelta, Remco Evenepoel, is about to go down the ramp now. His date with this race of truth. He gets started. He is prepared specifically for this time trial.
And just look at him go. He is sprinting those first meters. He really, really wants this. He's been quite open about it in the media. He's had almost every other race win you can think of, and he's only 23 years of age.
What he's won already is absolutely incredible, considering that also the rehabilitation he had after a huge crash in the Lombardia after he turned pro. Remco Evenepoel is settling into his rhythm. We know that he wants the rainbow bands. It would be even sweeter if he beats Wout van Aert to do it as well, I think. Looking down on Sterling, the first split, Tarling, Asgreen, Cattaneo, Dennis, Amarai, Van Aert is the top 6. Here's the defending champion, the surprise winner of the World Championship last year, Tobias Foss of Norway, is about to go. Only 2 more riders remain. One of them is Stefan Kung, who is now on the start line. This rider about to go.
He already picked up the rainbow jersey a few days ago in the mixed team relay when Switzerland dominated. He was second last year. He's always there or thereabouts. Is today the day where he can get it right and take those rainbow bands in the individual event? He's certainly another favourite for this event.
New fastest time at the second split. Derek G of Canada goes 3.5 seconds faster than the time of Ryan Mullen. If you've just joined us now, Ryan Mullen has been setting the fastest times along the course. He is currently in the hot seat as the leading rider. Average speed just a notch under 50 kilometres an hour, 49.144. Ryan Gibbons of South Africa in second place. Eva Knotten of Norway in third place. They're the 3 riders in the hot seats. Wout van Aert trying to accelerate now and find a little bit more speed as he makes his way into the closing stages of the second part of this time trial. We go to the race start, and this is the final rider to take to the start. Tobias Foss, the defending champion, about to go.
Certainly was a surprise winner last year. Many people had him on the list as being a strong rider, but not necessarily a rider that could take the title, but he certainly did.
That's all the riders now out on the course. In 1 hour's time, we're going to know who is the world champion. So many of the biggest names in world cycling are here. The best time trialists in the world. Tadej Pogačar out on the course. The first appointment is the 12.6 kilometre split. That's when we'll know how is everybody going. Tom Sexton has just gone through there with the 8th fastest time. Sexton looking good so far. Riding for New Zealand. Beating the likes of Brandon McNulty. The second split, Matti Bodnar goes through to that second split. 7th fastest time for the Polish rider.
It will certainly be interesting to see how those first intermediate time checks relate to the final result once they get all the way around this 47.8 kilometre course. Many things can change from kilometre to kilometre as people get more and more tired. We've seen it in the junior events, the under-23s and the elite women's yesterday. But we've certainly had some very interesting intermediate splits so far.
This is Jay Vine. Now, Jay Vine got his professional contract with Alpecin de Koning after he won the Zwift Academy online, a virtual academy where they try and discover the best rider in the world and give them a contract. He got that. He stayed with Alpecin de Koning, rode some amazing races, and then was signed by UAE Team Emirates. Stefan de Bod goes through the second split, the South African rider, with the 3rd fastest time so far. We're waiting for all the riders to reach that first intermediate split. Filippo Ganna not too far away now.
54, 55 kilometers per hour. He is like a train. He's powering along this course. And of course, these first kilometers, we've talked about them time and time again. They're open, flat, wide roads. It really does suit a very, very strong rider that can just push the watts, push a huge gear, and really make up the extra time on this first 10, 15 kilometers of the course.
Physically, it's really hard for these riders, isn't it, to hold that position, and they make it look so easy, but to be doubled down, head right down on the forearms, and just keep the power on is so difficult.
Yeah, and for such a long time, we're talking nearly 1 hour of racing. It's not like on the track where you're also in a very aerodynamic position in the likes of the team pursuit and the pursuit. Those events last 3-4 minutes. This is nearly an hour. So, as we said, you need to be in an aerodynamic position, but you also have to be able to sustain that position, get the power out, be comfortable, and still handle the bike well around the corners, out the saddle. But these riders, they've trained time and time again, hours and hours and hours. They've invested money in the testing, in the wind tunnel testing, to make sure they are gaining absolutely everything as they can. And you see Remco, how he handles the bike. He's often moving left and right. Maybe it's the wind, but we've seen some other riders riding very straight, very smooth.
To me, Remco is having problems with that front wheel.
Yeah, it's a very large, deep wheel, isn't it? Yeah. And we don't know how windy it is exactly on this point in the course, but it could very well be windy. It certainly is here at the finish line. We can see the flags blowing. It's open, there's no protection.
Then Kemna coming up to the second intermediate split. Kemna's had some good times to begin with. Now he's starting to fade away a little in terms of the other riders. Kemna goes through, second fastest time for Leonard Kemna. New second fastest time at the first split for Remy Cavagna from France. 16.33 seconds down on the time of Josh Tarling. Now, you can get on the course, Lucy, can't you? And you can choose your equipment based on what you know. But we're seeing how Remco is fighting that front wheel. He's getting blown a little bit to the right-hand side. Same to me as Stefan Kung is. And sometimes you can choose certain equipment and you get on the course and it's the wrong choice. Remco wouldn't make that sort of mistake, surely.
Yeah, it is really hard to get the right balance because, of course, you want the fastest material, you want the most aerodynamic material, but you still have to be able to control it, essentially, because when you get those gusts of winds, when you get those open roads, it is hard to control. You can see also Wout van Aert's bike wobbling around a little bit, also from the sheer speed, the power that he's producing through those pedals.
Van Aert's chosen a slightly lower section wheel, though, hasn't he? It's not as deep as we've seen on Remco Evenepoel's bike.
Yeah, Remco certainly had an extremely deep dish wheel on the front. Most of these riders, or if not all of them, are riding, of course, a disc wheel on the back. That's quite hard to control in itself, never mind having a deep dish on the front as well. Also, Pogacar, we can see now he's got a very big wheel, deep disc wheel on the front. Seems to be handling it very well, but he's a bit further around the course.
Just a reminder, if you've just joined us, I'm Anthony McCrossan, alongside me is Lucy Martin. At the finish, Ryan Mullen of Ireland is the leader by 5 seconds from Ryan Gibbons of South Africa. Eva Knotten is in third place at 12 seconds. Out on the course, though, we're waiting for all of the favourites to reach the first intermediate time split. That comes up at 12.6 kilometres this afternoon, and we know that Josh Tarling is the leader to that point. Not long until Tadej Pogacar reaches that intermediate time split, and Pogacar's gone through 10th fastest, 29 seconds down on the time of the young British rider Josh Tarling, who is settling some incredible times so far this afternoon.
Yeah, all the biggest name riders in the world, and he's put in significant time into them. We'll see. Has he gone out too fast? Maybe he's got a little bit too eager. This will be one of the longest time trials he would have ever ridden in his entire life. Of course, he's only 19 years of age. Maybe he's got a bit excited. Maybe not. Maybe he simply is the star of the future and he's really showing it today. We shall see very soon as we come through the next time check. Whenever he gets there, we'll really be able to see what the differences are, because as we have said time and time again, the first 12 kilometers of this course, very specific. It's very straightforward, open. It's a very suited to a very powerful rider. But we saw in the junior and the women's races, that can change a lot by the time the riders get to the second and third checkpoints.
That final climb will turn in the favour of the likes of Remco Evenepoel, of Tadej Pogačar, those sorts of riders. The early phase will be the likes of Josh Tarling. So he needs to build more of a buffer, needs to build more speed as he takes 34 seconds out of Jay Vine, who is in 15th place to this point. This is the arrival of Lawson Craddock at the second split. Craddock has set the fastest time so far to that split.
Yeah, very strong ride there from the American to go fastest. He looks smooth on a bike. He's put a lot of time and effort into that position. He's been a former national champion.
Filippo Ganna coming up to the first split. Let's see what this time is going to be. He is going to be potentially even faster than his trade teammate. Filippo Ganna goes fastest, top of the leaderboard, 6.73 seconds faster than Josh Tarling, who's second place now. The arrival of Ben Healy at the finish line, chasing the time of his teammate Ryan Mullen, and it looks like Mullen may have timed and teased this race perfectly, because Ben Healy is struggling to get ahead of Ryan Mullen. Healy is a great time trialist. Mullen this afternoon is even better. Mullen is coming up to the finish line now in the hot seat. Healy's going to try and beat him, 11.76 seconds. Third fastest time for Ben Healy. Ryan Mullen stays in the hot seat.
Yeah, super ride from both Irishmen. But of course, Ben Healy, a little bit younger, maybe a bit less experienced in the time trial discipline, but certainly a very good ride for him to be in third position at the World Championships at the moment.
The first split then, Filippo Ganna leads 6 seconds ahead of Josh Tarling, 23 seconds ahead of Remy Cavagna. Mikael Bjerg with the fourth fastest time, 23.45 seconds down. Then it's Kasper Asgreen, as we see the arrival of Nelson Oliveira at the second of the intermediate splits. The Portuguese rider who went through the first split, 10th fastest. Now he's going to go through to this second split, and he is going to be very much quicker than Lawson Craddock. 41 seconds faster. Nelson Oliveira, top of the leaderboard at the second split.
Wow, he's absolutely smashed that time, hasn't he? It just shows the difference in the abilities of these riders. 41 seconds faster at a second time check. That's very impressive, and I think we're going to see these riders continuing to smash the times as we go down.
Geraint Thomas arrives at the first split, 9th fastest time, just a little bit faster than Wout van Aert by 0.07 of a second, 9th fastest, so Thomas in the top 10. These times are interesting. It makes me question whether riders are going out with a prescribed kind of time schedule and are going to accelerate, because we've got Pogačar in 12th place, Van Aert in 10th place, Geraint Thomas in 9th place, Rowan Dennis in 7th place.
Yeah, it could quite well be that. It's a long time trial. They may be pacing themselves. They might not want to go out too quickly. They might think they are better making up some extra time towards the back end when everyone begins to suffer, to slow.
Second fastest time at the first split for Remco Evenepoel as he goes through with an average speed of 53.891 kilometres an hour. The Belgian wonder kid is now second to Filippo Ganna.
Which is what we could expect before we started this day. Maybe some of the other riders, we'd have expected them to be a little bit higher up. But of course, still a long way to go. But 4 seconds behind Ganna. Ganna is clearly on a strong one today.
Tom Scoynes is going to finish now. 6th fastest time for Tom Scoynes. it is a very tough finish to this race. This final climb is an absolute leg breaker.
It's a long one, an hour's effort. 58 minutes if you're lucky. It's a long, long time trial, and they really, really have to pace themselves.
Bruno Amarai goes through the second split, second fastest time. Next to the first split will be Stefan Kung.
Another rider that looks so aerodynamic, so smooth, so powerful when he's on his time trial bike. Some other riders, they just don't look comfortable. Even if they're strong time trial riders, they just generally look to be fighting the bike. But he's certainly one of the few riders that looks very, very comfortable when he's in that position.
Second place last year for Stefan Kung. This is Kasper Asgreen coming up to the second split. Second fastest time for Kasper Asgreen. He's gone through the first split, sixth fastest now. Asgreen is on a good afternoon. Stefan Kung goes through. That's a huge surprise. Stefan Kung is 17th fastest, 40.63 seconds down on Filippo Ganna at the first split.
Yeah, that is certainly a surprise. We always have surprises at the World Championships, but it's early on. We have to remember it's only 12.6 kilometres in, but to lose 40 seconds in the space of 12 kilometres, it's almost unheard of.
It is almost unheard of. Here comes Rowan Dennis to the second intermediate split. Dennis now chasing the time of Nelson Oliveira. This second split is a difficult phase of this time trial. Dennis starting to rock and roll a little bit. It's a pretty hard section of this time trial now. Rowan Dennis comes up to the second split, and he is just inside the fastest time. 51.1 kilometres an hour. Dennis is in top position at the second split.
That was close. 0.03 of a second. He will be getting that information in his ear through the race radio from the sport directors in the car. They will be telling him exactly what he needs to do now, as we are seeing Van Aert coming up to the second time check. Has he gained more time?
Van Aert needs to start to move now. Tobias Foss, the defending champion, has gone through the first split, 10th fastest time. So the first three at the first split as we head towards deciding where the rainbow bands are. Filippo Ganna leads by 4.6 seconds on Remco Evenepoel, 6.7 seconds on Josh Tarling. Further on down the standings, Wout van Aert in 12th place, Geraint Thomas in 11th, defending champion Tobias Foss in 10th place. Our next appointment for all those riders is the second split. The arrival now of Derek G of Canada, fighting to put himself into the hot seat that Ryan Mullen is currently in. Derek G looks like he might go to the top of the leaderboard, but this final section of this climb takes an absolute eternity. Derek G, second place in so many stages of the Giro d'Italia. Today, is it going to be first or second at this point? He reaches the line, top of the leaderboard. Derek G of Canada, he goes into the hot seats.
That's an extremely strong ride for the Canadian. Nice to see him actually go into the top and not settling for second place once again. Now we have to wait and see how long he can stay there in that hot seat.
Wow, at the second intermediate split, Josh Tarling has just gone through with an average speed of 52.326 at the second split, 58 seconds faster than the former double world champion Rowan Dennis. Here's the slight replay of that. Josh Tarling goes through with the fastest time. This young rider is absolutely flying on this course.
That is absolutely unbelievable, and not only has he gone through fastest, he's gone, as you said, 58 seconds faster than Rowan Dennis. We're talking about Rowan Dennis, a two-time individual world champion in this discipline.
Josh Tarling faster than Dennis, Oliveira, Cattaneo, Asgreen, Bruno Amarai. He's taken 1 minute 39 seconds out of Bruno Amarai, 1 minute 17 seconds out of Kasper Asgreen. This is absolutely stunning performance by Josh Tarling. Wout van Aert closing in now on this second split, and this rider looks to be absolutely flying as well.
He certainly does, but I don't think he's going to go through at the fastest. He's still a while away from this checkpoint, but that time check of 39 minutes 47 seconds by the 19-year-old Tarling. Wow.
Tarling said he wanted to focus on this time trial. I don't know if anyone even took him remotely seriously as a contender, that he was here for experience, but Tarling doesn't do experience. Tarling does absolutely stunning performances. Wout van Aert now into this right-hander, leans it over. Van Aert is heading towards this next split. Well, Van Aert is not in the ballpark this afternoon. Maybe some of these riders have not quite recovered from what was an incredible race on Sunday. Mathieu Bodnar, 6th fastest time for a former winner of a stage of the Tour de France. Wout van Aert arrives at the second split. Here is the arrival of Van Aert, one of the top favourites, 5th fastest. 1 minute and 1 second slower than Josh Tarling. He's being demolished this afternoon.
This is really entertaining to see how the British rider can go so much faster than the world's top riders.
Stefan de Bod, 13 seconds down on Derek G. 4th fastest time at the finish line.
We thought maybe he'd gone out early, but he's still leading. Tarling in the second intermediate split. Is he going to blow up in the final? Is he going to hold on? Are we going to see a 19-year-old pulling on the rainbow bands?
It's a possibility now. Derek G is currently in the hot seat as the fastest rider. Ryan Mullen of Ireland in 2nd place. South Africa's Ryan Gibbons is in 3rd place. Here's confirmation of that. Derek G, 4.4 seconds ahead of Ryan Mullen, who's been in those hot seats for a long time. So is Ryan Gibbons. 9.4 seconds is the deficit in 3rd place. And there is Derek G in the hot seat from Canada. A very strong performance by the Canadian. We've enjoyed watching him all season. He's put in some stunning performances. The 3rd split, Lawson Craddock has the fastest time there. Filippo Ganna heading towards the next of the splits.
We were talking about earlier how it's quite different having the road race before the time trial. And I am wondering, with some of these surprises in the intermediate time checks, maybe it is simply, as you said, the riders haven't actually recovered from what was an absolutely epic road race. 271 kilometres only on Sunday. It's Friday today. Not that long ago to recover from an epic, long and really difficult road race.
Stefan Bissegger, 9th fastest at the split. 1 minute 44 seconds down on the time of Josh Tarling, who is the current leader of this time trial. This event was first run in 1994. The first winner was the British rider Chris Boardman. The arrival now of Leonard Kemner to the finish line, riding for Bora Hansgrohe, one of their Grand Tour contenders. He finished in the top 10 in the Giro d'Italia this year. Leonard Kemner making his way to the finish to try and eclipse the time of Derek G. Derek G's time, 58 minutes 17.17. Kemner's closing in on the finish line now. Is this going to be the fastest time, or is he just going to be outside? Kemner puts himself in the hot seat. 2nd fastest time for the German rider. Leonard Kemner finishes, makes his way towards the hot seat area.
Do you think we're going to see anybody dip under the 58-minute mark? 56 minutes perhaps by the time Josh Tarling gets round here, maybe even faster.
Leonard Kemner goes and finds a quiet corner to be on his own, just to recover for a moment. Remco Evenepoel heading towards the 2nd split. 7th fastest time for Søren Vanenschold of Norway as he reaches that time. to the top places at the second split so far. Josh Tarling of Great Britain, Rowan Dennis of Australia, Nelson Oliveira of Portugal. Here's confirmation of the first splits. Filippo Ganna ahead of Evenepoel, ahead of Tarling in third place. So if it translates to the second point, we should see something quite similar at the second intermediate split. The big question mark is this final climb of the day. But riders, Lucy, we've talked so much about the fact that riders will ride a schedule and try and accelerate through the ride. We might start to see some changes as Filippo Ganna catches Jay Vine in front of him for 1 minute 20 seconds. Jay Vine will not be impressed at this.
No, he definitely won't, and that's what's always so difficult. If riders, of course, pass you, it is very demoralising, but at least he knows he's being passed by an exceptional rider, an exceptional time trialist, a former individual time trial world champion, so I'm sure he won't be too demoralised, but of course, yeah, 1 minute 20 is still a very big chunk of time to take away.
Brandon McNulty arrives at the second intermediate split. Good time, second fastest time for Brandon McNulty. Just goes 8 seconds faster, 12 seconds faster than Rowan Dennis. So now at the second split, it's Tarling from McNulty from Dennis this afternoon. Ganna goes past. Jay Vine tries to fight to stay with him. Not been the best season for Jay Vine. He's had a bit of an injury on his knee and he's had to do a lot of rehabilitation, so he's missed out on some of those top races. Coming up to the finish line, this is Lawson Craddock, who seems to have been accelerating throughout this ride and is riding still strongly on the climb up to Stirling Castle.
Yeah, this is a fantastic ride. Very strong performance from the American. He's still got a while to go. He goes around this corner. The cobbles never seem to end. It goes on and on, 150 metres, but it feels like eternity. But he's got a good time advantage. Will he beat the time of the Canadian? I think he will, and he may go into the hot seat, but for how long?
Lawson Craddock chasing the fastest time now, just keeping the cadence high. That chain bouncing all over the place, his head shaking, almost losing his teeth on the cobbled climb of Stirling Castle, but it is going to be the fastest time so far. Lawson Craddock into the hot seat, top position, 21 seconds ahead of Derek G.
49.5 average over 47.8 kilometres. It's a fast course. It's a predominantly flat course, but of course, these cobbles up to the finish line, they take no prisoners. They are brutal. We've seen it in every single category so far. Interestingly, Ganna's passed him, Jay Vine, but he's not put too much time into him just yet. We talked about this, sorry, and in the junior race, how having somebody in front really spurs you on, and maybe that's exactly what's happening for Jay Vine now. Suddenly, the Italian has passed him, and now he's found that extra motivation to push on those pedals.
I just heard, I'm not sure I was supposed to hear it, but I've just heard the commissaires giving Jay Vine a warning to drop back and out the way of Filippo Ganna. This is Josh Tarling, 4.8 kilometres from the finish. He's coming up to the next point on the horizon, which will be the third split. Rowan Dennis has gone through there with the fastest time. Nelson Oliveira now chasing the time of Lawson Craddock to go into the first position in the hot seats. Oliveira looking strong. He's a wonderful time trialist, sometimes forgotten as to how good he actually is. Oliveira, he's able to just ride this incredible tempo all the way through a long and hard performance.
Yeah, definitely this distance suits him a lot. And maybe Lawson Craddock won't have even made it to the hot seat. His time looks like it's going to be smashed. He's looking very strong. He's going out the saddle. Not many riders have actually been able to do that on these cobbles. He's certainly got a little bit left in the tank to really power over the finish line and into the hot seat.
New fastest time, Nelson Oliveira. 50.1 kilometres an hour for the Portuguese rider. At the third intermediate split, Josh Tarling has gone through with the fastest time, 54.9 seconds faster than Rowan Dennis, but he's losing time now. Dennis has taken back 4 seconds. The hot seats are starting to shuffle around this afternoon. A very warm welcome to these World Championship time trials. This is the final time trial of this World Championships, the Super Worlds in Glasgow and in Stirling this afternoon for the time trials. The current situation at the finish line, here we are. Nelson Oliveira of Portugal leads 44 seconds ahead of Lawson Craddock. Derek G is in the hot seats. Leonard Kamner didn't even make it there. He's dropped out of the hot seats this afternoon. Dan Hula of the Netherlands has just finished with the 13th fastest time. So at the third split, Josh Tarling leads from Rowan Dennis, from Nelson Oliveira. We're back out on the course with Remco Evenepoel. At the second split, it's Tarling from McNulty now from Rowan Dennis.
I'm pretty sure I just saw a shot of a rider in front, so he may very well be about to catch somebody, which would be Geraint Thomas.
It is Geraint Thomas. Remco Evenepoel starting to move. He's catching Geraint Thomas in front of him. Let's just take a look at this replay. Remco Evenepoel getting a little bit annoyed with something. Maybe his race radio. Shakes his head.
Interesting.
Lucy maybe just getting upset with what he's being told, or the amount of encouragement, or something else. This is Bruno Amorai. Amorai's been riding well, around about 9th place along the course.
You can just see the cobbles. He's chosen to spin a little bit more than grinder gear. He's also getting out the saddle, but it is absolutely all out the last 50 meters. The cobbles are a lot steeper than they look like actually on this TV shot.
6th fastest time for Bruno Amorai this afternoon. Bruno Amorai. Here's the arrival of Casper Asgreen. Now, he was setting some good times out on the course earlier on in the race. Casper Asgreen coming up towards the finish. What is his placing going to be at this point in this time trial? Asgreen clicking his way through the gears, trying to find something that will work. He's able to get out the saddle. One of the only riders who's been able to do that. But then again, he has won the Tour of Flanders. Casper Asgreen comes up to the finish with the 2nd fastest time into the hot seats for Casper Asgreen of Denmark.
49 kilometers per hour, not quite able to sustain 50 kilometers per hour, but here comes Rowan Dennis. Oh, no.
Problem for Rowan Dennis on the final climb. I don't know what happened there, but Rowan Dennis has had, looks like the chain came off. And Rowan Dennis just trying to get himself to the finish line now after having that problem on the climb. Looking to set the fastest time ahead of Nelson Oliveira. Well, a little problem in his final time trial of his career. Rowan Dennis reaches the finish line now. Dennis 2nd fastest by 1.2 seconds.
I'm not sure exactly what it was that happened there, but he will be so disappointed with that. So unlucky. As we said before, his final World Championship time trial. It is not what you want to happen.
You could see the shoulder is all covered in dirt, so it looks like he's had a big problem there. Maybe just fell the gear. You can see the dirt on that right shoulder. Go away. Oh, he's not happy. Rowan Dennis. Things did not go to plan. Here's the arrival of Josh Tarling. Things have gone exactly to plan for Josh Tarling this afternoon. Look at the time. Josh Tarling has been on fire this afternoon. A tenacious Tarling is ripping his way towards the top of the road at Stirling Castle, and this is where the battle commences now for the gold medal, because Josh Tarling has produced the most scintillating ride. The question is, has he left it all on the road too early, or has he still got enough power to beat all the best riders in the world? Tarling now is turning his way towards the finish. This is an incredible ride by this youngster, Josh Tarling, the former junior world champion. Is he now going to win the world title as an elite rider? Tarling is making his way towards the finish line, and he's going to be in another stratosphere. 1 minute and 4 seconds faster than Nelson Oliveira.
51.1 kilometers average. Let's just take into account what that means. He's 19 years of age. This is his first ever elite world championships. It's a home world championships. What did we just witness? That is some special riding.
That is an absolute breathtaking performance. Josh Tarling in front of his home crowd has set a standard that everybody else now has to chase. And if they get that time in their ear, there's going to be an awful lot of concern. Well, sometimes in a time trial, things have to go to perfection. Today, that was the perfect ride. Tarling at 19 years of age. Look at the time. 1 minute 4 seconds faster than Oliveira. 1 minute 5 faster than a double world champion, Rowan Dennis. He thrashes Catania, he thrashes Asgreen, and he puts everybody else in the shade.
Unbelievable. We did discuss whether he'd gone out maybe too fast because he had such a good time at the first intermediate check, but he has held on. Now we're seeing the next rider, Van Aert, coming up to the finish line. Has he done enough?
The answer is no, Lucy. He has not done enough. He is fighting his way up the cobbles. Van Aert, one of the favourites for today's race. Maybe one race too many. He doesn't have the pace in the legs. Josh Tarling has demolished Van Aert. Making his way to the conclusion of this ride. Look at the power, look at the speed, look at the momentum. But unfortunately, he's going to be beaten significantly by one of the youngest riders in the race. Josh Tarling is making his way into the history books right now. Wout van Aert is reaching the top of the climb, and he is going to be beaten by nearly a minute, 49 seconds.
Wow. That is absolutely incredible. I mean, we're talking about one of the world's best riders that's won almost every single event possible. He's won the individual time trial stages at the Tour de France, and he's just been beaten by 49 seconds by a 19-year-old.
Josh Tarling, the youngest rider in the race. 19 years, 177 days. Well, we've just seen Filippo Ganna, or just heard that Filippo Ganna's gone through the second split 13 seconds faster than Josh Tarling. So Tarling is the second fastest rider on the course right now, even although he's going to be in the hot seat. Here is a replay. Filippo Ganna goes through 52.6 kilometers an hour, 13 seconds faster than his teammate from Ineos Grenadiers.
You can see, look, his intent, how he just flew around that corner. This is going to be interesting all the way till the final rider crosses the line. It's certainly going to be very close. I think Tarling will be, of course, very happy with his ride, but now he'll be starting to get a little bit nervous, seeing Ganna go faster at that individual intermediate time check. Look how tucked, how aero he is at the front. He just slides through the wind. He's got a very specific style, hasn't he? Looks very powerful.
A reminder then that the hot seats are occupied right now by Josh Tarling of Great Britain, Wout van Aert of Belgium, Nelson Oliveira of Portugal. They're the top three. Going back out on the course, we're waiting for all the riders to arrive at the 34.7 kilometre split. Ganna has got there already. Filippo Ganna next to reach there will be Jay Vine, then Geraint Thomas, Remco Evenepoel, as we see the arrival of Stefan Bissegger. Bissegger now arrives. He is going to be nearly 2 minutes down on Josh Tarling on the day, in 8th place at 1:55.08.
He was 5th in the World Championship time trial event last year.
Here's the arrival of Remco Evenepoel, the wonder kid from Belgium. He's told his car to calm down a little bit, and he's going to make his way to the second intermediate split, and he is going to obliterate the time of Filippo Ganna by 12 seconds. Remco Evenepoel now is on a mission.
He's clearly started out a little bit conservative. He didn't go too fast through the first time check. He was the second fastest, 4 seconds, almost 5 seconds behind Ganna, but he's certainly made that time up now. He's got intent to continue to push on those pedals and, of course, really go for that rainbow jersey. He was the world champion last year. He wants the individual time trial title as well to add to his collection of results.
Farensgold arrives 6th fastest time. Well, Remco Evenepoel in the second phase of this time trial has taken 16 seconds out of Filippo Ganna in the second phase of the time trial, which is a sparkling performance by Remco Evenepoel. 16-second turnaround, Lucy, between those two riders. Remco has suddenly accelerated really hard. Farensgold trying to recover at the finish line.
He said in the media before the event, though, it was his longest time, the longest time trial he's ever done. So let's see, can he handle it? He's got 11.8 kilometers left. Maybe that was the whole point of going out slightly easier. I say easier, he still went out extremely fast. Is he going to hold on and take this title?
His average speed at this moment in time is 52.883 kilometers an hour. This is Brandon McNulty, who's been riding well out on the course. And the American rider chasing the time to put himself into the hot seat this afternoon. Is that going to be a possibility? Brandon McNulty chasing the time of Wout van Aert, chasing the time of Nelson Oliveira to get himself into second place at the moment. He needs to be within 49 seconds of Josh Tarling. McNulty looking good for a place in the hot seats at this moment in the time trial. McNulty almost at the finish line now, manages to get out the saddle and sprint for this last little bit towards the line. McNulty is going to beat Wout van Aert. He will be second fastest this afternoon.
Another very strong ride. I'm sure he'll be very pleased with that. You can just see, though, when they do those close-up shots of the bike, the chains going everywhere, the wheels are flying around. These cobbles are brutal.
The new hot seats: Josh Tarling of Great Britain, Brandon McNulty of the United States of America, Wout van Aert of Belgium.
So we've got just 13 riders left to cross the line, left to finish in this 2023 Individual Time Trial World Championship event.
This is how things look. Josh Tarling of Great Britain with the most scintillating ride, 38 seconds faster than McNulty. Wout van Aert at 49 seconds. The arrival of Stefan Kung. This rider is not having a good day. This is a big surprise. The rider who was silver medalist last year just doesn't look like he's even close to his game. 12th place, 1 minute 39 seconds down, and Stefan Kung just looks like it's just not happening today.
No, and he's in form. He finished 5th in the road race on Sunday, so he's clearly got good legs, but yeah, maybe he's not recovered. It is a course that suits him. There's so many things, so many variables as to why not. Sometimes it just doesn't come together on the day, no matter what you've done beforehand, but he'll be bitterly disappointed with that.
Remco Evenepoel closing in on the 3rd split. The fastest time to there is 50 minutes 0076. But Evenepoel really is flying. You can see the speed that he's carrying right now. The arrival of the defending champion, Tobias Foss, at the 2nd split. 11th fastest time. It's not happening for Tobias Foss today. The defence of his title is not going in the right direction. Here's the standings at the 2nd split. Remco Evenepoel 12 seconds ahead of Filippo Ganna, 25 seconds faster than the current rider in the hot seat, Josh Tarling.
Yeah, 25 seconds, it's a lot. We know Evenepoel really wants this title. He said how he was very disappointed in the road race. It just didn't work. It didn't come together. All eyes were, of course, on him and his teammate Van Aert for that road race title. Today is the day he's been focusing on. He wants this title more than the road race title. He already won it last year. He's been very public about this, and he's certainly moving in the right direction at the moment.
Look at the speed of Remco Evenepoel with 8.3 kilometres to go. He is absolutely flying. I mean, look at the speed of the motorbike in front, and Remco is just flying his way towards it. This is a pretty special ride by Remco Evenepoel. 15 seconds is the difference between him and Ganna. Ganna is about to catch Tour de France winner Tadej Pogačar. Ganna is absolutely motoring as well.
That'll be a massive blow for Tadej to see a rival come past so quickly, so close to the end, but it just shows how strong and how much of a specialist in the time trial event Ganna is.
Filippo Ganna is now going to pass the double Tour de France winner Tadej Pogačar. And he goes past him as though he's just a normal bike rider. Pogačar swings across to see if he can get a little bit of slipstream. Ganna has caught Tadej Pogačar for 2 minutes and 40 seconds.
Yeah, let's remember he wasn't even the rider to go off down the ramp before him. There was Jay Vine in between.
Absolutely incredible, the speed of Filippo Ganna. He's just trying to up the tempo, trying to come back at Remco Evenepoel. Right now, we wait for the riders to reach 43.5 kilometres of racing. Josh Tarling, the leader there. Brandon McNulty, second place. Rowan Dennis, third. Wout van Aert in fourth. But this rider from Belgium is looking to add the World Time Trial Championship to the World Road Championship he wore last year. Look at Ganna and the speed of Pogačar, and he's just riding away from him.
Look at this time. It's going to be very interesting to see now the time check at this third intermediate split. We're getting closer and closer to the finish line. The road goes up, but it doesn't appear so in his legs. He keeps that momentum. He keeps that high power, that high wattage, the same cadence. Almost look like it's a flat piece of road for the Italian rider.
Well, we thought that Josh Tarling had produced the most sparkling performance. Well, this one is something different. It's like the diamond performance of the afternoon. Filippo Ganna is 27.6 seconds faster than Josh Tarling to this point in the race.
Now we wait. Evenepoel, he's the next rider to be flying through that time check. It's between these two, it looks like, for the gold medal. Anything can change. There's still just under 6 kilometres to go. It's going to be close.
Ganna's closing in now on the climb to Stirling Castle. Jay Vine has just gone through that split, 11th fastest time. Tadej Pogačar goes through with the 22nd fastest time. Remco Evenepoel is nearly there now, and then we get an idea of how close this World Championship is.
Now, Ganna's won the title 2 times before. Of course, Remco is only 23 years of age. It's easy to forget he's such a young rider. He won the event as a junior. He's finished in 2nd place, in 3rd place on 2 occasions. He's never quite got the gold medal.
Tadej Pogačar is not giving in. He's coming back at Filippo Ganna now. He doesn't like the fact that he's been caught. He's allowed to ride like this, though, isn't he? He can go to the other side of the road as long as he doesn't go in a slipstream.
Yeah, he certainly can. And we've spoken about this a few times before, how you're on your own for such a long time. It's 47.8 kilometres. Sometimes you need that little bit of extra motivation of having somebody in front, and it really does suddenly wake you up, and looks like that's what's happened to Tadej right now. He's got that extra motivation to focus on something and really push. Now there's less than 3 kilometres to go.
Knowing Tadej Pogačar, he's obviously also thinking, how fast do I need to go to win a time trial at the speed of Filippo Ganna? Here's the arrival of Remy Cavagna, not being his day. The Frenchman arrives at the finish line. Remy Cavagna is going to be 18th place. Some of the time trialists today have just not had a good day. Finish of Mikael Bjerg, 7th fastest for a 3 times under 23 world champion.
gasping for air. You can just see how hard this event is. It's such a unique sporting event, and it's so long. They're out there by themselves. They're giving it everything, and I think particularly by finishing on these cobbles, it makes it so much harder than if it was a flat finish. They really, really have to push on the pedals, get up that climb and over that finish line.
Remco Evenepoel has just gone through the third split with the fastest time, 10 seconds faster than Filippo Ganna. And Ganna is coming back now at Remco Evenepoel. It's a bit of a nail-biter at the finish line. Josh Tarling is the leader, 38 seconds faster than Brandon McNulty, 49 seconds faster than Wout van Aert. It looks like the gold medal is between Remco Evenepoel and Filippo Ganna. Remco is 38 seconds faster than Josh Tarling to this point in the race.
He'll obviously be getting these time checks as well in his ear from the sport director in the car. He's got a race radio. He'll know he's finally up on Ganna. He was down at the start only by 4 seconds, and he slowly made his way back. Maybe this was all along his tactic. We heard it's his longest ever time trial event, so he's been wary of the distance, and he's certainly paced himself very well as we see these two riders now coming through. 1 kilometre to go. They turn and the cobbles await.
Pogacar trying to follow Filippo Ganna onto the final climb of the day. Remco Evenepoel is the fastest rider on the course, but Ganna is starting to close the gap a little bit. 2 seconds he's closed. It's going to be a real fight for the finish now. Everything has to go right on the cobbles.
2.7 kilometres to go.
Look at the number of people here in Stirling as the Tour de France winner Tadej Pogacar makes his way down and gets set for him rumbling up the cobbles now. Ganna is in front. There are so many people in Stirling this afternoon. We have been treated to the most incredible crowds in these World Championships. Here we go, up to Filippo Ganna. There he is, trying to close in now on the finish line and win this world title. Tarling's time, 56 minutes, 7.43. Filippo Ganna's got 1.5 minutes to get to the finish line to beat his young teammates in the Ineos Grenadiers. Ganna's looked great throughout this time trial. Can he win his third world time trial title? Look at him go. He is emptying the tank.
It's only a few hundred meters to go, but it is slow. 200 meters, he's past the 200 meter mark. It feels like eternity. We've seen the riders turn this corner. It is a battle all the way to the line. Every second counts.
Every second counts for Filippo Ganna. What is the time going to be? Without doubt, he's going to go into the lead in this time trial. He's trying to get everything out of that bike. The time of Josh Tarling, 56 minutes, 7.43. Filippo Ganna, is this going to be his third world title? 35 seconds faster than Tarling and into the hot seat.
A phenomenal ride, and normally we would say that's enough for the gold medal, but let's just wait and see. As the former road race world champion, the 23-year-old from Belgium, Evenepoel, is still yet to finish, and this man is on a mission.
Yeah, right behind there's a Belgian bullet, and that's Remco Evenepoel. He's got 900 meters to go to win this title. This is one of the most incredible time trials we've seen. Filippo Ganna is the leader, ahead of Josh Tarling in second place. The youngest rider in the race, Tarling, may well take home a bronze medal here. Thanks, Filippo, for that. He finishes now. That was a horrible race. Josh Tarling gives him a round of applause.
Still an absolutely fantastic ride from this 19-year-old. Look at the crowd.
Remco Evenepoel through the theatre that has been formed on the roads to Stirling Castle. He needs to get to the top of this climb in 1 minute 20 seconds time. Remco Evenepoel looking for a little bit of smooth road. We know how dangerous that is. We've seen riders come to grief. Remco Evenepoel is on the final rise to Stirling Castle. Is this going to be rainbow bands for the Belgian? Remco Evenepoel still fighting all the way to the top, and he can't relent because we know that Ghana was only 10 seconds down at the final split. Urged on by the crowds here in Scotland, Remco Evenepoel, look at the shoulders, hunched, trying to get himself to the finish line. There's only 200 metres to go. Evenepoel is looking strong, he's looking good, he's just keeping the pedals turning over. Is this going to be the world title? He's already taken the road title. Can he add the time trial title to that he's taken so far in his incredible career? He can see the finish gantry now. Remco Evenepoel heads his way to the top of the climb at Stirling Castle. The final brutal push to the finish. Remco Evenepoel, is it going to be the rainbow bands? Remco reigns at the Royal Castle of Stirling. 12.28 seconds, world champion Remco Evenepoel.
What a ride. He set out with intent. He spoke in the media about really wanting to win this championships. And that was some ride. 12 seconds ahead of two-time former winner Filippo Ganna from Italy.
Here comes Geraint Thomas. Geraint Thomas is going to finish now. We've still got another couple of riders out on the road. Geraint Thomas is going to reach the finish line now, just over 2 minutes down on the winner Remco Evenepoel. 10th fastest for Geraint Thomas today. What a performance.
So you give him what he needs.
A stunning ride. He took 2 more seconds out of Ganna on the final climb, but Ganna rode an incredible final rise to the finish.
Yeah, he certainly did, and it's always so surprising. It's such a long distance, 47.8 kilometers, and it comes down to the difference of 12 seconds.
Celebration for Belgian cycling. What a day. That's Remco's dad on the left-hand side. We wait for the arrival of the final couple of riders, but there is no doubt about the medals. Remco Evenepoel will be the world champion. Filippo Ganna in second place, the Italian, and in third place will be the young British rider, the youngest rider in the race, Josh Tarling.
Yeah, phenomenal ride by him, of course, and to be taking a bronze medal in front of a home crowd, a very special moment for him in his first elite championships. But yeah, as you said, let's not forget there's still 2 riders out on course.
Stefan Kung just hasn't been anywhere near the picture today.
No, surprising as he was in, of course, second place last year in the championships in Australia.
Also, you would have said that this course was perfect for him. Hardly any corners, straight line speed was what it was all about.
Yep, sometimes it just doesn't quite come together on the day. On paper, everything looked to suit him, but it just also really shows what kind of effort Evenepoel and Ganna both put out to fly around this course. A long course, one of the longest World Championships individual time trial events that we've seen for a while. 47.8 kilometers, but no, not to be today for the Swiss rider.
Stefan Kung is almost at the finish line now. The final turns towards the top of this incredible climb that has put everybody absolutely on their limit. Stefan Kung closing in now on the line.
He'll be disappointed, but of course he's already got a rainbow jersey when Switzerland won the mixed team relay just a few days ago.
It just looks like one race too much for Stefan Kung. Left and right towards the finish. The shoulders, normally that poise and the speed of Stefan Kung is something we admire. Today, he just has had one of those days. 11th fastest on the day for Stefan Kung. One more rider left to finish. That's the defending champion, Tobias Foss. The medals going to Belgium with Remco Evenepoel, Italy with Filippo Ganna, Great Britain with Josh Tarling. We bring home the defending champion, Tobias Foss. Last year, he was the surprise of these championships. He produced the most incredible performance to take the final rainbow bands. He beat Stefan Kung and Remco Evenepoel into second and third place. This time, Evenepoel has made his way onto the podium. It's always difficult, isn't it, to defend your title?
Yeah, there's a much more pressure. Everybody's looking at you. They know what you can do, but he certainly hasn't been able to reproduce that performance this year. Slightly different course, of course. Different timing with the championships being in August rather than September, so there's a few variables, but not his day today. He finishes in 11th position.
All the riders are in this Men's Elite World Championship. Well, we hoped it would be something special, and it certainly was. Remco Evenepoel wins the world title ahead of Filippo Ganna, with Josh Tarling maybe the big surprise of the day. He is third place, having gone from junior to elite and finishing third in his first World Elite Time Trial Championship.
At 19 years of age, a phenomenal performance.
Josh Tarling in third place. Ganna in second. Remco Evenepoel wins the title to add another rainbow jersey. Last year he was the road world champion, so next year at the road events we will see Remco Evenepoel back in the rainbow jersey when we've got a time trial. Here's confirmation of the result. Remco Evenepoel wins 12.28 seconds ahead of Filippo Ganna, 48.2 seconds ahead of Josh Tarling of Great Britain. It's Belgium's world title. We're getting ready for the podium presentation. Looking down on Stirling Castle. Thanks for joining us. We're getting ready for the podium presentation. This title was first won in 1994 by Chris Boardman. And since then, we have never seen a Belgian winner of the World Time Trial Championship. A bit of history for Remco Evenepoel this afternoon. In the last few years, him, Remco Evenepoel, Wout van Aert, Victor Kampenaerts have all been on the podium, but they have never managed to win the title. Finally, Belgium get a world champion in the time trial. The battle commenced when Josh Tarling got across the line, but Ganna and Evenepoel were equal to him this afternoon. Don't forget, if you're ever in this area, come to the Battle of Bannockburn Vista Experience. We're waiting to hear now from the new world champion, Remco Evenepoel, after the most sparkling ride this afternoon. Remco Evenepoel has excited everybody by the way he rides. Wout van Aert of Belgium in 5th place this afternoon at the end of what was a tough time trial for all. Rowan Dennis in his final time trial in the World Championships finishes in 7th place after falling or having a problem on the run into the finish. We fly over Doon Castle. Other riders who are finishing their professional life in this time trial or towards the end of the season. Jos van Emden that we saw riding earlier on, he took his final run down a start ramp in the World Championships. Taking a look down at the University of Stirling. Let's take a look at the highlights of today. Josh Tarling made his way in the sunshine out of the start ramp. Tarling, the youngest rider in the race. He set some very fast times out on this course. Something for everyone to chase. At the finish line, he went into the hot seat, 1 minute and 4 seconds ahead of the fastest time to that point. Filippo Ganna has won this title twice, chasing his young teammates in the Ineos Grenadiers. Out on the course, he caught Tadej Pogačar. Remco Evenepoel, though, was starting to ignite the race. At the finish line, Filippo Ganna went into the hot seat as the fastest rider to that point. A round of applause from Josh Tarling. Remco Evenepoel started steady. Once he got into his flow, though, there was no holding back. At the finish line, Remco Evenepoel wins his first ever World Championship elite time trial. Sets himself up for La Vuelta coming up soon. In a few moments, we'll hear from the new world champion and have the presentation of today's race. Stirling has hosted some fantastic time trials. We're going to make our way back to Glasgow for the next couple of days for the final road events of this World Championship. Every vantage point is taken. Look at the crowds on this climb. Tarling, Ganna and Evenepoel, the three animators of this race. Remco Evenepoel reaching the finish line. A great performance by him this afternoon with his wife and heading towards the podium. Let's hear now from the new world champion, Remco Evenepoel, after a sparkling display on the roads to Stirling Castle.
Remco Evenepoel, congratulations. 1 year after your title in the elite road race, you do it again, this time in the time trial. You enter history even more?
Yeah, looks like, because I think I'm the first Belgian to ever win a world title on the TT, so it's It's amazing. It was maybe one of my biggest goals of this season to win today, and to do it on a tough course, which is maybe not perfect for a guy from my weight, but yeah, I just had that super good day, and I could hold it, and yeah, just super happy.
Take us through your effort, and how did you hold it? Because you paced your effort almost to perfection.
Well, to be honest, I could ride harder and faster than we planned. I could always ride like 10-15 watts above my pacing plan. So if you know after 30 minutes that you're still not on the limit and you still don't feel the legs, then you know you're on one of those days. And yeah, I knew from the second intermediate that I went faster than people, and it was actually a bit of my terrain that was coming with the up and downs. But I have to say that this final climb was really brutal, and it really gave like, yeah, how to say, an extra knife in the legs on this super hard TT. But yeah, just super proud and super happy.
It's a sweet revenge after last Sunday.
Well, it's just a pity that we came second with Wout, of course. From my part, it was a bit too hard and too explosive, and I think I had good legs, but it was just not my type of course, and today was more my type of course, and we really focused on this TT, and all these hours on the TT bike really paid off, and yeah, it shows out in the result with the victory.
Congratulations. Thank you, Remco.
Remco Evenepoel on a fantastic day. Lucy pacing strategy, but he was 10 to 15 watts higher and didn't even feel the legs.
Yeah, very special to be able to say that, isn't it? Imagine what he was thinking as soon as he was looking down at his power meter. But of course, we've talked a lot today about pacing and how important it really is in any time trial, but particularly today with the length of the course, 47.8 kilometers. He wasn't the fastest at the first time check. We did raise an eyebrow as to how he was feeling, but he soon picked it back up, and it was a very, very precise ride. It looked like he'd really gone into detail about where he needed to pick it up, and of course he has the information from the car in his ear. But yeah, the first time check at 12.6 kilometers, he was 4.6 seconds down. Not a lot, but still could have been important at the finish line. But no, he is the world champion, and he beat a former two-time world champion by 12 seconds. So very, very impressive ride. And let's not forget, he's only 23 years old.
What about Josh Tarling this afternoon, the youngest rider in the race, having moved from junior to elite? We just look at that and say, what a great ride, but that's something pretty special, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But look at what we're seeing now on the screen. We're talking about a 19-year-old and a 23-year-old that are about to head to the podium to take medals in the elite men's individual time trial world championships. It's absolutely amazing, and it just shows how the sport is changing, and the riders at the top are becoming younger and younger every single year, every season.
There's the three bikes that have taken the medals. Towering above Remco Evenepoel, Josh Tarling and Filippo Ganna.
The medal ceremony of the 2023 UCI Cycling World Championships. Road, men, elite,
The height of Tarling and Ganna.
Cérémonie protocolaire des championnats du monde de cyclisme UCI 2023. En route contre la montre individuelle homme élite.
The medals and jersey will be presented by Mr. José Luis López Cerrón, UCI Management Committee.
Les médailles et le maillot seront remis par Monsieur José Luis López Cerrón, membre du comité directeur de l'UCI.
In third place and winner of the bronze medal representing Great Britain.
À la troisième place et vainqueur de la médaille de bronze représentant la Grande-Bretagne,
Josh Tarling!
Josh Tarling orchestrating the crowds in his home world championships.
In second place and winner of the silver medal representing Italy.
À la deuxième place et vainqueur de la médaille d'argent représentant l'Italie,
Filippo Ganna. In first place, UCI World Champion and winner of the gold medal, representing Belgium.
À la 3e place, champion du monde UCI et gagnant de la médaille d'or représentant la Belgique,
Remco Evenepoel.
Remco Evenepoel is the world champion. He's worn the rainbow bands before when he took the road title. This time he'll wear it in the time trials. The first Belgian winner of the individual time trial men's elite World Championship.
Les cadeaux seront remis par Douglas Dodds, doyen du conseil de Sterling.
The mascot's being presented.
The Tissot watch will be presented by Mr. José Luis Lopez Cerron, UCI Management Committee.
La montre Tissot sera présentée par Monsieur José Luis Lopez Cerron, membre du comité directeur de l'UCI.
The special watch presented to Remco Evenepoel.
In honour of our new UCI
And now for the national
World
anthem of
Champion,
Belgium for the first time in the men's elite time trial.
Of Belgium.
Mesdames et messieurs, en l'honneur de notre nouveau champion du monde UCI, nous vous présentons l'hymne national de la Belgique.
Ladies and gentlemen, please one more time, your applause for our medalists.
Mesdames et messieurs, veuillez applaudir une dernière fois nos médaillés.
The podium of the men's elite World Championship time trial, the final time trial of these World Championships. There's our podium. Josh Tarling, Filippo Ganna, Remco Evenepoel.
One more time, your medalists, Remco Evenepoel, Filippo Ganna and Josh Tarling.
There's our medalists. Lucy, just summarise quickly, what's your thoughts on this World Championship time trial?
Well, I have to say, a little bit expected. We knew Remco was in form and he wanted this title, and when he wants something, he generally gets it. I think the biggest surprise was the young 19-year-old from Great Britain, Tarling. We saw some other riders, the likes of Rowan Dennis, Van Aert, maybe a little bit lower down than we expected. But overall, what a very, very dramatic and exciting final, and it really came down to the wire. Only 12 seconds separating the gold and silver medalist. And of course, we've talked about it many times, it's a very different championships with all the different cycling disciplines being held this week, over 11 days actually, and it's August, quite a different time in the calendar, but it definitely made for a great event today and very entertaining watching.
Thanks, Lucy. This is the medal table. Great Britain still at the top with 49 medals. Here's the rest of the nations who have taken medals in these championships. I wonder whether this is a little signal that Belgium might also get a gold medal on Sunday with Lotte Kopecky in the women's road race. We wait and find out whether that is the case. Well, thanks very much for joining us today. It has been a very special time trial. We always said it would be a massive battle between the riders. Remco Evenepoel is the world champion, the first Belgian world champion in the time trial. From Lucy Martin and me, Anthony McCrossan, thanks for watching. Bye for now.